the way that I would fight a child. Yeah, sure, totally. That's awesome. Maybe some thoughts aren't worth having. Maybe some things aren't worth writing down. Maybe those just need to get locked away forever. You know what I mean? Hey, my name is Kaylee. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. This is Read Rant Review, where, you guessed it, I read books and I do rant reviews. In short, that means that I'm going to do my makeup while I give you a beat-by-beat, chapter-by-chapter breakdown of a book. Today, we are going to be talking about Colleen Hoover's thriller romance, Verity. This book was written in 2018 and is sitting at a whopping 4.3 with 3.3 million ratings on Goodreads. Absolutely insane how popular this book is, and popular enough to justify a movie. Hey, don't be confused by the excitement in my voice. This is truly a Colleen Hoover hater account. To the point that I made a CoHo bingo sheet derogatory, and one of my phenomenal subscribers, Kelly, turned that into one that you guys can play along with. So I have it linked in the description box below. Some of the things, if you're curious about what I expect in Colleen Hoover books, is stupid names, the main female character moving in with the main male character. I expect cancer, questionable mental health rep, questionable LGBTQIA rep. Honestly, you could use this bingo card for any type of dark romance that's coming out these days. I feel like they all kind of hit the same things, which is such a shame. But anyway, so I'm going to be giving you a rundown of this book. We'll talk about it. Like I said, I'm going to do my makeup. We'll have a good time. Before we begin though, I do have the same 3 disclaimers that I have on all of these types of videos. The first one being, obviously this is going to contain all of the spoilers. The second one being, this is not for Colleen Hoover. My reviews are for fellow readers, and this is also not for friends, fans, family, stans, anything of the like. I will clearly be talking massive crap on Colleen Hoover as an author and on this book. Just, it is what it is, bestie. I try my hardest in all of my reviews to give credit where credit is due, but ultimately it will have a negative tone. So like, click off now. I don't want to hear it if you're going to argue with me about it. And then the third disclaimer is usually a content or trigger warning. Colleen Hoover does not provide these in her books, and your opinion of them, whatever. You can have your own opinion about trigger and content warnings. That's fine. I'm going to provide one now. I'll have a timestamp below if you would like to skip this portion of the video for one reason or another, but I still provide it regardless for people. So the things that I would like to give you a heads up on, there is talk of eating disorders, postpartum depression, harm against children, harm against one's self, unaliving, very graphic negative thoughts about a child and like having a child and your body going through pregnancy. So if you are sensitive to that, or abortions or miscarriages or anything like that, if you have a young child, this is probably 100% not the video for you. There's also talk of just death in general, and I think that hits everything. It's really the children thing. If you have a problem with young kids and babies stuff, it is very, very horrifically graphic about those particular things. So just protect your peace. I'll catch you guys in the next one if this is not your cup of tea, okay? With that, let's begin. Our book opens with Lowen Ashley. Yes, Lowen. So we can go ahead and check that box off right in the middle about stupid names. No offense if I have any Lowens watching this for some reason. She is an author in Manhattan, New York. She is on her way to a meeting with her publisher after being called upon about a deal that's coming up. On her way to the office, a man right in front of her trying to cross the street gets hit by a bus and dies. Blood splatters all over her, and yeah, welcome to a Colleen Hoover book. If you are unfamiliar, I am honestly shouldn't be surprised by that kind of beginning, but I still kind of was. Yeah, dude graphically gets unalived on the very first page of this book. So Lowen, while freaked out about this, is trying to, I don't know, continue her day or try and figure out what's going on when a stranger approaches her. The stranger who happens to approach her his name is Jeremy Crawford, and he says, hey, it's okay, it's cool. That was pretty crazy. How about you come with me? And he takes her to a coffee shop kind of like around the corner in order for her to go to the bathroom to wash the blood off of her. My issue immediately off the bat is that when they step into the bathroom, he locks the door, okay? Hey, strange man, how about you don't ever lock me in a fucking room with you, just the two of us, when we literally just met and don't know each other's names. This isn't an issue though, because of course, obviously there's insta attraction, and she's like, oh my God, this hot man all dressed in this suit has it so together and he's so attractive and keeps his calm under emergency situations that like, I'm literally about to drop my panties for him. And I'm not exaggerating. So they're in this coffee shop bathroom. She's literally washing the blood of a dead man off of her, and she's thirsting over Jeremy because he's taking his suit jacket off, and then he takes his like button-up shirt to give it to her. He still has an undershirt on so he can get away with it or whatever. I feel like that would look so stupid though, a men's undershirt and then a thing on. Anyway, so he's being polite though. Genuinely, he's being kind. I'll give him that. He takes off his jacket to give to her so she doesn't have to wear her bloody shirt anymore. And she's thinking to herself, he locks us inside the bathroom so no one else will walk in on me while I'm shirtless. It's disturbingly chivalrous and leaves me feeling uneasy. I'm tense as I watch him through the reflection in the mirror. I too would be tense and uneasy, but I feel like for different reasons. So he takes off his shirt, hands it to her, and she's thinking, he's muscular, taller than me. His shirt will swallow me whole. Like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to pull this off. I have this important meeting coming up. How am I going to be able to make this shirt not make me look like a slob? It's just gonna be so big on me, and I'm just like this ooh-woo little tiny baby girl, and I'm just gonna be swimming in his top. In my reaction, my note says, tuck it in. What do you mean? Literally, girl, tuck that shit in. What do you mean, is my note. And then I said ooh-woo. That's fine. It's fine. Hey, we're literally on page 12. So she puts the shirt on. She's getting cleaned up. She's turned on, just already fawning over this man, and says his eyes match the tie. So he obviously has to take off his tie when he gives her his work shirt because he's not going to wear an undershirt with a tie. And she says that his eyes match it, and it's chartreuse. I'm going to put up a picture real quick of what chartreuse looks like. But if you see somebody with chartreuse eyes, you might want to call a doctor. I'm just saying. While they're in the room though, of course, it's not just like a normal conversation. Of course, it's not, oh my God, I can't believe that we both just witnessed this horrific death of this man. This is terrible. Instead, it turns into a trauma dump fest where Jeremy is like, I've seen worse. It's okay. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. What worse have you seen? In which I'm like, girl, you literally just met this man. In what universe would it be okay to ask that question? In what universe is this like a realistic conversation in any freaking way? It's not. It's Colleen Hoover. Of course it's not. I don't know why I would expect anything different. Sorry, my like paintbrushes are behind here. My paintbrushes? Might as well be. So yeah, he's like, I've seen worse. And she's like, oh my God, that's so mysterious and attractive. What have you seen? And he goes on to talk about how I pulled my 8-year-old daughter's body out of a lake 5 months ago. Hello? Okay. Yeah, sure. So I suck in a rush of air and I bring my hand to the base of my throat. It wasn't gloom at all in his expression. It was despair. I'm so sorry, I whisper, and I am. I'm sorry about his daughter. I'm sorry for being curious. What about you? He asks. He leans in against the counter like this is a conversation that he's ready for. A conversation he's been waiting for. Someone to come along and make his tragedies seem less tragic. It's what you do when you've experienced the worst of the worst. You seek out people like you, people worse off than you, and you use them to make yourself feel better about the terrible things that happen to you. Hey, I would just like to say, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that that's like not a normal human freaking experience. And this is where we get into the first question of, is this Colleen Hoover being a good writer? I know. Hey, hold your horses, guys. Hear me out. Is this Colleen Hoover being a good writer in setting the foundation for these characters to be narcissists? Are we setting the foundation that both of these characters are psychopaths or sociopaths or whatever the correct path is, where they're like lacking certain things, certain empathies and whatnot? Or is this Colleen Hoover being completely incapable of writing a likable, believable character? I don't know. Hey, I don't know, man. So she goes on to tell this again, can't make this clear enough, utter stranger in a coffee shop bathroom that her mother died last week, and that she's been the caretaker for her mom for the last year. And yeah, oh my God. And that she's been caring for her mother this last year as her mother has been on hospice suffering from cancer. It's the first day that she has stepped out in weeks from her house. And of course, the first thing that she experiences is a graphic guy passing away in front of her. Whenever they go to leave the bathroom, finally, she's like, kind of likes him. This whole conversation, this whole like, we can share each other's traumas and we can talk about these deep, dark things. And then she spots a wedding ring on his finger and she's like, damn it, all the good ones are taken. Is pretty much what happens. And so she ends up just leaving, wearing his t-shirt, baggy AF, and goes to her important meeting that she has. Important as in the fact that she is a struggling author who does not have enough money to pay for her rent. She is like 3 months behind on her rent, is 48 hours away from getting kicked out of her apartment. Okay? So she's going to this meeting to try and sign this deal to make some money. It's a very mysterious meeting. She doesn't know what to expect, but she's hoping for the best because obviously she doesn't want to be homeless. And so in chapter 2, she's going to this meeting that she has. And along the way, she's thinking to herself about maybe some of the reasons that she's had a difficult time connecting with other people and why this random connection that she had with this guy was so meaningful to her. And part of it is because of the way that her mother treated her growing up. She was afraid of what I might be capable of during one of my many sleeping episodes. She says, "It's hard to say why I have such a deeply crippling aversion to other humans, but if I had to wager a bet, I would say it's a direct result of my own mother being terrified of me." And you're thinking, hello? That was my reaction. So Lowen suffers from sleepwalking spells, which I don't want to minimize. I understand that is a true issue. I'm sure it's very, very scary waking up and not knowing what is happening or like what you've done and having like absolutely zero recollection. And that's what happened to Lowen. When she was, I want to say 12 years old, I don't know why, maybe younger than that, she woke up from one of these sleepwalking episodes and had broken her wrist. Her mother and her watched the security footage and she had like gone out onto the balcony, stood completely, utterly still, not even breathing, just standing there, completely still, and then just like jumped off and ended up breaking her wrist and had absolutely, like, that didn't even snap her out of her sleepwalk. She woke up the next morning covered in blood with like searing pain in her wrist, and that's how she found out that she broke her arm. So her mother immediately after that happening said, "Not my problem," and moved down the hall and got all of these locks and stuff on each of these bedrooms' doors because she was horrified of her own daughter. And so now Lowen is like, "Oh my God, I'm just this monster. Nobody could ever love me because like my mother couldn't love me because I had sleepwalking problems." Which again, I don't want to be like invalidating, but like, really? We also learn in chapter 2 that beyond this complicated mother relationship, she also has complicated relationships with partners. Her most recent romantic relationship was actually with her agent. His name is Corey. He is who she is meeting right now for this important meeting for her to get this book thing figured out. They had been hooking up for, I think, like 2 years or something. They kind of sort of dated, and then she checked on social media one day and found out that he had a girlfriend, and so now she's been avoiding him. And so she shows up to this meeting with Corey. He doesn't really know what's going on. She doesn't really know what's going on, but it could be a very, very big deal, and they're excited to actually make some money now. They end up in the meeting. These other two people come in, and then the third person who walks into the room is none other than Jeremy, the guy whose shirt she's wearing. Jeremy comes in. It turns out Jeremy is married to this woman named Verity. Ayo, the name of the book is after Verity. She is a very, very famous author of these like thriller horror novel things. She had a car accident. She is in some type of medical state that Lowen is unaware of, but she is unable to finish the series. And so the publisher is looking to hire an author to finish the series. Apparently, Verity has read one of Lowen's books previously, and they have a similar writing style or like similar genre thing. And so they chose her to finish this series. One of the other reasons that her and Corey's relationship ended, I'm going to read this to you. It's basically because he was in love with another woman. Never mind that the other woman in our relationship was also me. It has to be confusing, falling in love with a writer's words before you meet the actual writer. Some people find it difficult to separate a character from the individual who created them. Corey, surprisingly, is one of those people, despite being a literary agent. He met and fell in love with the female protagonist of one of my first novel, Open-Ended, before he ever spoke to me. He assumed my character's personality was a close reflection of my own, when in fact, I couldn't be more opposite from her. Now, I say this specifically because I want you to tuck that into your back pocket and hold on to it for later. I don't know if you have ever read any other Colleen Hoover books or if you've watched any other reviews about her. Her writing is very heavy-handed. And by that, I mean Colleen Hoover does not leave anything to the imagination for her readers. She spells every single thing out multiple times to an offensive level where she thinks that you're stupid. I'm just saying that's like the theme that comes across, okay? So for her to say something like this, and then for the events to occur in this book, I don't know if this is very shoddily done foreshadowing or if this is genuinely, again, like I said earlier, laying a foundation of something we'll get to later. I don't want to spoil it for you. Just tuck this into your back pocket. I'm going to bring it up in like an hour, okay? So they end up in this meeting. Turns out they want to hire Lowen to finish the series for Verity. Lowen does not want to accept it, even though it would literally be $75,000 per installment of finishing the series. She doesn't want to take it because finishing the series would also mean press tours, becoming the face of it, and all these other things that Lowen just doesn't want. She doesn't want the responsibility. She doesn't want to be the face of something. She just likes to stay in the shadows and do her own thing. So ultimately, she turns the deal down. She says, thank you, I'm so flattered, but also see you next time. Jeremy says, hey, can we have a second? Like, can everybody else leave the room? I need to talk to Lowen. Okay, so they do. And Lowen is thinking to herself, I have no idea why I'm more curious about him than I am about this meeting. And my note says, because you're a horny monster. She and Jeremy go on to have a conversation where he says, hey, they're lowballing you. You need to ask for $500,000 and ask for like anonymity. Ask to stay private. He's like, just do that and it's fine. Like, we're going to hire you. Just fight for yourself. She says, oh, okay, I guess. And that's exactly what she does. So we go into chapter 3. Lowen is back at her apartment after accepting this deal. Corey comes to visit her to celebrate her signing, like her making this crazy deal. He gets 15% of the cut. So obviously he's very invested and very excited about her getting this because he's about to hit gold, like for not doing shit. Hey, no offense. I know agents do things. I'm not trying to be dismissive of it, but this guy's like a POS, okay? Whatever. So he shows up at her apartment. They get to chit-chatting. The only thing important to note here, I think, is the fact that he brings up concern because apparently Jeremy told her, like, hey, you should come and stay at our house. We live in Vermont, but you need to go through all of Verity's notes and go through her office so that you can be inspired on the next steps and how to finish this series. He's like, I haven't touched it. I haven't been able to. And like, I wouldn't even know where to start. So I can't email it to you or take pictures because there's so much stuff and I don't even know where to begin. So the plan is for her to go up to Vermont for the weekend, a couple of days, whatever, to try and figure out what the next steps would be. And so when Corey comes over to celebrate and she tells him this, he's like, hey, that's a little concerning, don't you think? Like, don't you think that this guy could be a little bit scary? And she's like, I don't think so, but like, what the fuck? And it turns out, not only, right, Jeremy mentioned it before in the bathroom that his daughter died, he had another daughter. He had 2 twin girls. Both of them are dead now, and his wife is in a coma. And so there's a lot of, understandably, questioning going on of like, is he doing this to his family? Like, is this guy an actual, literal, I don't know, psychopath or sociopath or whatever the right terminology would be? And is he harming his family? Like, is that really something that you want to be a part of? Like, that's very, very dangerous. Ultimately, she's like, yeah, I did my research and he's a good guy. Like, I don't think he had anything to do with it. Like, his wife's accident was ruled as a accident. Jesus Christ, Kaylee. And the daughter's thing, like she went into anaphylactic shock at a sleepover and the other one drowned and he was at work. Like, he had nothing to do with any of this. He couldn't have been a part of it. Like, it's just tragic accidents. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go. Okay, chapter 4. And we press on. So she is on her way. Oh, sorry. I just saw my highlight. So in chapter 3, she's doing reflection about her life, how she ended up where she was, right? She has this crappy relationship that just ended with Corey. She has an eviction notice. She's about to go to this random writer's house. She's just in a weird, and her life is objectively kind of a mess. And so she's thinking about it, and she's thinking about her ex. His name is Amos. She says, it's why we broke up, because I refused to choke him. But sometimes I wonder where I'd be if I had entertained the urge. Would we be married now? Would we have children? Would he have moved on to even more dangerous sexual perversions? She broke up with this dude that she was with because he asked her to choke him, and it was a step too far into the kinky realm. And she was like, when you're in your early 20s, you shouldn't be asking, like, vanilla stuff should be plenty enough for you. And if you're asking for being that, then it's going to escalate to all these like crazy things. And so she left him. We'll come back to it, but I would just like to say that I feel like this is reoccurring in Colleen Hoover books and also in this book itself, where being sexual and like having like sexual exploration and anything beyond wanting to be a parent, beyond literally having to procreate and have children, is like gross and forbidden and like nobody should do it, and you're a freaking heathen if you ever have that beyond doing enough to just make a kid. Okay, that sounds kind of weird, but like you'll understand, and if you've read a Colleen Hoover book, then you also understand why I'm saying that. Anyway, we'll come back to it, I promise. So in chapter 4, Lowen is driving to Vermont. She has never read one of Verity's books. She has no idea what she has really signed up for, and so she's listening to an audiobook on her way up there, and she's listening to the first one, and it is phenomenal, dude. She is in absolute, I don't want to say shock necessarily, but she's getting big imposter syndrome. She She's getting big. I think I'm in over my head. I don't really know what I'm doing, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do this series justice vibes, right? When she gets to the house, she pulls up, puts the car in park. It's a mansion. It's huge. She's like so amazed, has never seen any type of place like this right now. And she looks in the rearview mirror, and there's a child staring at her. Oh my God. His name is Crew. It's I think he's 4 or 5 years old at this point, staring at her through her rearview mirror. So she lets out a scream. She gets out of the car and she says, "Hey, do you live here?" "Yeah." I look at the house behind him, wondering what it must be like for a child to grow up in such a home. "Must be nice," I mutter. "Used to be." Bro, can you imagine? You are showing up because his mother is in a coma. You know that his 2 sisters died recently. I think it is both of them within the last year. It must be nice because he has a big house. Girl, and a 4-year-old saying it used to be is hilarious for one, but like, that's crazy. That is crazy. Used to be. So then he goes inside. He goes inside of the house and just like shuts the door in her face and locks it. And so she's there standing on the doorstep, ringing the doorbell repeatedly to the point that she has to call Jeremy or text Jeremy and be like, "Hey, I'm outside." So he comes to unlock the door for her so she can actually like come inside. Dude, so freaking funny. And Jeremy, ever the gentleman, he goes outside to go and get her bags from her car and bring them inside for her. And he says, "Hey, I hope it doesn't weird you out, but you're actually going to be staying in the master bedroom." Yeah, I think that would weird me out. I don't think there's anything you could say after that sentence that would not weird me out. She's going to be staying in the master bedroom because I believe it's on the first floor. And then on the second floor is Crew's room, the 4-year-old little boy's, and they put Verity up there as her like guest bedroom hospital room thing. So she's in a hospital bed up there. So Crew didn't want to be up there alone. Understandably, it's a lot of emotions. It's a lot for a 4-year-old to understand. And so Jeremy moved his room up to that floor as well. So all of them live up there. And then he's like, "Yeah, you can just have the master because obviously like I'm not staying there anymore." However, all of his stuff is still in there and all of Verity's stuff is still in the master. Like all of his shirts and stuff are still in the closet and all of Verity's stuff is still in the bathroom. And it's just, I think it would be weird AF. But what do I know? So they bring all this stuff inside. She goes, "Whoa, that was really pigmented. If you're watching, holy crap." This is the Matte About You color palette by ColourPop that I got. Look at that. I wanted to do like themed makeup for each of my videos, so this was like the best palette I could find for that. This shit is crazy. Anyway, so what was I saying? Oh my God, and it's St. Patrick's Day when I'm recording this. I was doing my makeup to match the cover of the book, but this is like on theme for the holiday. Oh my God. Okay, anyway, sorry. Oh, the other thing to note. So they go into the room. She goes into the master, and like her first question when she goes in there is, "Hey, does this room have a lock on it?" And Jeremy's like, Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we've never used it. It probably does though. And she's thinking to herself, "Yeah, I haven't slept in a bedroom that hasn't had a lock since I was 10 years old. AKA since the accident, right? The whole sleepwalking accident thing. The other thing that she notices as she steps into this master bedroom, I look around the room and this all feels so bizarre, especially that I'll be sleeping in their bed. My eyes are pulled to the headboard, specifically to the teeth marks bitten into the top edge of the headboard in the center of the bed. I immediately tear my eyes away before Jeremy catches me looking. He'll probably see all over my face that I'm wondering which one of them had to bite the headboard in order to keep quiet during sex. Have I ever had sex that intense? And my note says, "Girl, you couldn't even choke a dude." Girl, you broke up with a dude because he has to be choked. I don't think you've ever had anything that intense. What do you mean? Okay, you know, hey, no judgment, I guess. No judgment. No judgment. So, that shit is so funny. He goes on to ask her what her pen name will be because he wants her to go upstairs and meet Verity, and he's going to introduce her to Verity's nurse using the pen name. So she's like, "Oh, I don't know. I haven't even thought about it. I don't even know." And he says, "What street did you grow up on?" "Laura Lane." "And what was the name of your first pet?" "Chase. He was a Yorkie." "Laura Chase," he says. "I like it." I tilt my head, recognizing the pattern of questioning from Facebook quizzes. "Isn't that how people figure out their star names?" He laughs. "Pen name, star name, works across the board." Okay, we're not going to talk about it. He then takes her up to meet Verity, and then he'll show her the office. This is where we get the beginning of some of the most, like, I guess this would be ableist. I don't know what exactly the terminology of pure disrespect that this would be. She's on her back in the bed, staring up at the ceiling, her blonde hair spilled over her pillow. A nurse in blue scrubs is at the foot of her bed, putting socks on her feet. Crew is lying next to Verity on the bed holding an iPad. Verity's eyes are vacant, uninterested in her surroundings. She's unaware of the nurse, unaware of me, of Crew, of Jeremy, as he leans over and brushes her hair from her forehead. She blinks, but nothing else is there. No recognition of the man that she had 3 children with is trying to be affectionate with her. I try to cover the chills that have appeared on my arms. Now, that doesn't sound disrespectful. We'll get to the disrespectful part. I just want you to lock away, put it in your back pocket, these things that I'm highlighting to you, okay? All right? So he goes up and takes her to the office. It shows her around. There's piles of paper everywhere. She doesn't really know where to begin. They have a brief discussion before he steps out, and she notes he slides his hands into the pockets of his gray sweatpants. And my note says, whore. You're wearing gray sweatpants around another woman? You freaking whore. Sorry. It's fine, though. It's fine. So he shows her the office. She's trying to get to work. She's reflecting on life. She's reflecting on meeting Verity and how severe her situation is, because she wasn't really expecting it. She didn't know what to expect exactly. The way that the news made it sound was that this was like a relatively minor incident, and she was just like trying to keep her privacy after this, you know, thing that happened. And there's really hasn't been additional information about her current status. And so for her to see Verity laid up on a bed, unresponsive, is really like messing with her head. And so she goes into the office and she's like, okay, so I'm on my own trying to figure out what the next steps are. Like, Verity's obviously, not to be offensive, but what she's thinking is like a vegetable. Like, she's completely unresponsive. She's not going to be helpful. She doesn't know what's going on in the world. Like, this is on me to figure out. So she pulls up all the books. She pulls up notes and everything that she can. And she says, there are 9 total books in the series. 6 have been published and 3 are still to be delivered. The series title is The Noble Virtues, and each book is a different virtue. The 3 that are left up to me are courage, truth, and honor. Now, this is another one of those instances where I question, I don't know if what is about to happen is Colleen Hoover being an actual like good writer for once, or if this is just some like weird stuff that just happened to land. So again, we'll get there. We'll unpack it. Hold tight. Jeremy asks her, he says, hey, have you read any of her books? Like, do you know where you're even starting? Are you familiar with it? And she says, no. She says, I haven't yet. I didn't have time between signing the contract and coming here. And he says, that's okay. I haven't read any either. I spin around and look at him. Really? I didn't like being inside of her head. I hold back my smile, but he sounds a little bit like Corey right now, unable to separate the world his wife creates from the one that she lives in. At least Jeremy seems to be a little bit more self-aware than Corey ever was. Again, is this Coho being a good writer and having some like follow-through, interesting plotline through her book, or is she being too heavy-handed? We'll revisit later. I just want to take note. So she's going through these boxes and she ends up accidentally coming across what appears to be an autobiography by Verity. She can't help but read it. The title of the autobiography is called So Be It. We open up. I'm going to read it to you, okay? Author's note. The thing I abhor most about autobiographies is the counterfeit thoughts draped over every sentence. A writer should never have the audacity to write about themselves unless they're willing to separate every layer of protection between the author's soul and their book. The words should come directly from the center of the gut, tearing through flesh and bone as they break free. Ugly and honest and bloody and a little bit terrifying, but completely exposed. An autobiography encouraging the reader to like the author is not a true autobiography. No one is likable from the inside out. One should only walk away from an autobiography with, at best, an uncomfortable distaste for its author. So this is where I would like to ask, is this book supposed to be an autobiography by Lowen? Because I also am walking away from this book with an uncomfortable distaste for the author. So are there layers to this, Coho? Are there intentional layers, or can you just not write a likable character? Am I supposed to feel this way on purpose? Is my question. So anyway, so Be It, the actual book, she goes into it, and the very first chapter is recounting Verity meeting Jeremy. When they were in their early 20s, they both ended up at this very ritzy, fancy, like, ball party thing, and she's talking about how she went there to try and find some rich guy to hook up with to make her life easier, and she ends up meeting Jeremy, and she's so attracted to him, and they lie about their ages to each other, and then they end up hooking up in a limousine because he says that it's his, but it's not his, and so then they end up actually banging in his Honda Civic, and I'm not exaggerating. That's literally what happens in chapter 1. And then they end up like falling in love and being obsessed with each other over the weekend, and that's it. That's everything you could want. I think the only thing to to note is that this is the book where he like starts to put his hands in inappropriate places in the middle of a steak and shake. And I'm like, this can't be the only book. I'm pretty sure I don't think it was November 9. It might have been Ugly Love. No, it had to have been November 9. Maybe one of her other ones. I swear to God, getting like fingers inside of you in a steak and shake has occurred more than one time in a CoHo book. Somebody, for the love of God, confirm. Actually, I don't want to know. You know what? Never mind. It's fine. So that happens. And then this following quote I have highlighted. And that's what love at first sight is. It isn't really love at first sight until you've been with the person long enough for it to become love at first sight. We didn't leave his apartment for 3 days. We ate Chinese takeout. We fucked. We ordered pizza. We fucked. We watched TV. We fucked. CoHo, you literary genius. How dare I have ever doubted you. In chapter 5, Lowen has not been able to pull herself away from reading this autobiography. And she's like, oh my God, hours have passed by. This has been so crazy. It's been so like involving. And I'm like, bitch, you read 1 chapter. What do you, hello? How long does it take you to read a How long was that chapter? Okay. Anyway, so she pulls herself away from it and she goes downstairs to go and get some food. And she ends up running into Jeremy. And she's like, okay, this was such a brutally honest autobiography so far. I have to know the truth to it. I'm like, what was brutally honest about it? She talked about hooking up with a guy in a Honda Civic. Anyway, so she asks Jeremy, she's like, hey, she doesn't ask him that directly, but she's like, how did you guys meet? And he goes on to explain like a pretty similar tale to what she read. So she's like, oh my God, it is an actual autobiography. That's crazy. And so she takes that as truth of like what happened in the manuscript is reflective of what happened in real life. And then they continue to bond with each other over them being introverts and like not wanting to like really be in the public eye at all or not really have much attention, and how her fame being Verity's fame, really kind of wore on him more than Verity, because she really liked the fame. Like that was kind of like her shindig, but he's a introverted guy. Okay, so this homewrecker, which is what I'm gonna call her. I don't care. I don't like the woman. I don't like the woman. I don't like the woman. I'm a girl's girl till the death of me, and she is not a girl's girl. She is truly just a home-wrecking bitch. And I called her the B word so many times in my notes, and I'll call her the B word so many times in this review. I hate Lowen so much. And hopefully by the end of this video, you understand why. So anyway, she ends this conversation with Jeremy and she says, oh my God, I think I like him. I need to read more of Verity's manuscript. So she does. She goes back upstairs, takes her happy ass back up there, and goes to try and finish the manuscript, or goes and reads some more of the manuscript. In chapter 2 of Verity's manuscript of So Be It, Jeremy and Verity have been together for 2 years and they just moved in together. And then Jeremy goes off to work in Los Angeles. So she's left by herself at the house. And so to cope with the loneliness, like she is so obsessed with Jeremy to a disturbing degree that she has to pass the time so that she's not just like seeming like a little crazy head, that she decides that she's going to write a book. And so that's where Verity's first book begins, is while he's gone. He comes back, he ends up finding her manuscript, he reads it, and then he proposes to her that night. He like falls in love with her because he's like, oh my God, this is about me, isn't it? Like, this is how much you love me. That's so crazy. Let's get married literally right now. Aww. In chapter 6, it's the next day, and Lowen continues working in Verity's office, and she looks up. I guess Verity's office has like all of these windows all the way around it, and so she's looking outside, and she sees Verity on the back porch with her nurse, and when the nurse goes inside, she like can't help but stare at them and like how they're interacting and stuff. The nurse goes inside, and so she decides that she's going to continue to watch Verity to see if she moves. Why would she move? I don't know. Lowen just immediately has bad vibes about Verity, and she's like, I know this just faking it. She is crazy. I know she's in there. She's inside. So she's just like waiting, right, for Verity to like move around or stand up or do something crazy, I guess. Lowen eventually gets bored of watching this comatose woman and goes back to work. And then when she looks back up, Verity is like looking right into her soul, like full on eye contact. She gets scared shitless. So when she makes eye contact with Verity out on this porch, Lowen thinks to herself, it's as if she were an egg cracked open and poured out, and all that's left are the tiny fragments of hard shell. I glance back down at the desk and I try to focus. I can't help but wonder how Jeremy is handling all of this. He's a concrete pillar on the outside, but the inside has to be hollow. It's disappointing knowing this is his life now. Caring for an eggshell with no yolk. This bitch at least acknowledges. That was harsh. I'm not trying to be harsh. I don't know. I feel like it would have been better for everyone if she hadn't survived the wreck. Okay, hold hold on. I immediately feel guilty for thinking that, but it reminds me of the last few months that I spent caring for my mother. I know my mother would have preferred death over being severely incapacitated as the cancer made her, but that was just a few months of her life, of my life. This is Jeremy's whole life. Caring for a wife who is no longer his wife, tied to a home that is no longer a home. I can't imagine this is how Verity would want him to live. I can't imagine this is how she would want to live. She can't even play or speak with her own child. And that's the ableist bullshit that I'm talking about like, you're not even trying to make this likable in any way. And even though she feels like super threatened, she's like, okay, no way, that's actually not true. There's no way. Like, I'm imagining things, or this is just like, she can't control her body. Like, look at her. She freaking, her neck is all, she's all leaned over, her neck's all messed up. Like, she's not in her own body. Like, I'm crazy, basically, is what Lowen ends up convincing herself of. She's like, I'm just imagining things. So fast forward a little bit more into the evening, she's hanging out in the office and she ends up getting a phone call from her landlord, right? She got kicked out of her previous house, right? We had the 2 days notice about the eviction. She ended up packing all of her stuff up. She's been staying at Verity's for a couple of days, and then she was going to apply for another apartment and then move in when they approved her. Turns out they call her, they say, hey, you had an eviction notice on your, I'm going to say credit report. I don't know how they found out about the eviction notice, but they're like, hey, you have an eviction notice on your thing. Your claim has been denied. Sorry, your application has been denied. You can try again if you want to. Here's the email if you want to appeal it, but that's what's going on. She's like, oh my God, please, please, please. Like, I'm getting an advance soon. I just, be patient with me. I'll pay a year in advance. He's like, yeah, sorry, I literally can't do anything for you. You can try again later. Turns out Jeremy was listening to this conversation. He was in the hallway listening, and he's like, hey, if you need to stay here for 2 full weeks until your advance comes in, you're more than welcome to. Like, low key, I would actually kind of love for you to. So house is yours if you want to be here. Like, you're going to need more time to go through Verity's office anyway. No stress at all. If that's what works for you, that'll work for us, type of thing, right? So she's incredibly flattered by this. She also doesn't really have a choice, so she agrees. And so later that afternoon, Crew, the 4-year-old boy, and Jeremy are out by the dock, and they are taking apart said dock. It's like kind of old, kind of rickety, and they're taking it apart, and she's just staring because Jeremy's hot and she's attracted to him, right? And as she is staring, she sees Crew turn around. He looks at her, and then he starts waving, and she's like, oh, okay, and closes her hand because she realizes that he's not waving at her. He's looking past her. He's waving at his mother's window. He's waving at Verity. So she turns around. She's like, what in the fuck? When she looks up at Verity's window, the curtains are like waving as if somebody just stepped backwards or something, and like she can't see them anymore. So she starts freaking out a little bit, goes inside to check on Verity because the nurse is gone for the day. Like, the nurse came out and was like, yeah, hey, I'm leaving. I left the TV on for Verity, and blah, 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 blah. Just give her medicine in a couple of hours. Like, this is the status update. So Lowen runs upstairs to try and catch Verity to see if she is moving or she's awake or whatever. She's in her bed. Verity's asleep. The fan is on. It's oscillating. So every couple of seconds, it's moving the curtain. So she's like, oh, thank God, that's what I saw. And then she realizes the eerie silence. This turned off the TV. Oh my God. Verity's awake in her head, in Lowen's head. She's like, oh my God, this is all the confirmation that I needed. Oh my God, Verity's alive. She's alive. You know what I'm saying? Verity's actually awake. She is faking all of this. This is absolutely crazy. But I don't have any proof of anything. So she just starts getting this like super, super uncomfortable feeling around Verity and like not wanting to be in there whatsoever. And she says, on that note, I'm going to go read more of this transcript because I don't know what's going on in this house, but like, I don't think I'm going to get any answers unless I keep reading. And so that's exactly what she does. So she reads chapter 3 of the So Be It memoir, autobiography, whatever you want to call it. And it's the night of their engagement, of Verity and Jeremy's engagement. And we find out that on the night of Verity and Jeremy's engagement, they ended up getting pregnant. And so in this chapter, Verity is dealing with the idea of having a child and her body not really being her own. And this is where like the eating disorder stuff comes in, the like self-hatred and like ultimately projecting like literal hatred, like vitriolic hatred onto your children comes from. And from here out, the So Be It chapters are about to get so gruesomely disturbing. I just want to give you a heads up now, okay? She starts super negatively talking about how her body's going to be affected. She's not going to be the same person anymore. She's going to gain all this weight. Jeremy's not going to love her after her like parts are ruined. Her body is ruined from carrying these children. And then also like Jeremy's going to love them more than her. And she doesn't want Jeremy to love anybody more than he loves her. She should be his main focus. And it's starting to eat her alive when he talks about like unconditionally loving their child, that it bothers her to her core. And it's so actually genuinely sad to read. right? But Lowen reads this, and instead of identifying with the mother or feeling like maybe some type of recognition of like I guess it's not postpartum, it's not prenatal, what would you call that? Like pregnancy hormone, you know, bad juju, bad vibe stuff going on. Instead of recognizing any of that or acknowledging like, I don't know, being a human and going through all these things, she's just like, this she, in chapter 7, Lowen goes on to talk about how like disturbed she is by this. And she starts beginning to wonder about if Verity ended up unaliving her children. The way that Verity talks about them in this chapter is like very alarming, right? So after Jeremy not confesses, but just acknowledges that his love is unconditional for his child, Verity, she tries to perform an at-home procedure to no longer be pregnant. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, it's very violent, it's very vulgar, it might be one of the more horrific things that I have ever read in my life. And she's thinking at the very end of this, my legs were numb from squatting, my stomach hurt, and I wanted to puke, but I didn't move because I wanted to be in bed with him when it happened. I wanted to wake up with him, frantic, and show him the blood. I wanted him to panic, to worry, to feel bad for me, to cry for me, to cry for me. Hey, so how does one even think of that? How does one even imagine such a thing to put in a book? I don't know. Genuinely, I don't know how CoHo comes up with these like crazy storylines that she does. I can't imagine. So in chapter 7, after reading again such a like violent, graphic, horrendous thing, Lowen says, I need some booze, actually. So she goes downstairs, she's in the kitchen, she's trying to look for something alcoholic. Jeremy sees her, he sees the distress on her face, he gets some alcohol for her. And then she starts to drink, and Jeremy and her are talking. She asks him pretty straight up, like, hey, what are the chances of Verity's recovery? Like, what are we working with here, you know? And Jeremy shares that although Verity is not physically paralyzed, her mind is similar to the mind of an infant now, and she will probably never walk or talk again. And so they start to get kind of close. I think this is the point where they start to get kind of close, like they're about to kiss. You know, they're like bonding over talking about his wife being not paralyzed, but like, you know what I mean, not doing well. They like bond over this, and they're about to start macking on each other. And Crew walks in and like breaks up whatever the hell that was. Jeremy takes Crew to bed, and she continues looking at the photos in the room, and she ends up looking at a photo of the twin girls. And she notices that one of them has a scar on their cheek. And Lowen is thinking to herself, I wonder if that is a result of Verity's failed attempt at unaliving the girls, like in utero. Jesus Christ. So when Jeremy comes back down, she asks him about this. She's like, hey, how did the one girl get the scar on her face? And Jeremy's like, yeah, the doctor said, they could have been from like XYZ, whatever, twins in the womb. Sometimes they like scratch each other and it's just like a thing that happens. And then he's like, but how did you get your scar? And like grabs her hand and like looks at her wrist. And it's the scar that she got from the whole sleepwalking situation. And so she finally like kind of talks about it a little bit about her whole sleepwalking thing, but doesn't admit it outright. And it's like, girl, just say it out loud. What? Again, I'm not trying to be dismissive of sleepwalking. I understand it's like an alarming, concerning thing to experience, but like, just be honest. What are we doing? And so whatever, at some point, she ends up going upstairs. After she has this conversation with Jeremy, she's upstairs and she sees that he did put a lock on her door for her, like on the inside of it. And she's like, oh my God, that's so sweet of him. But like, I hope Jeremy doesn't think that I wanted the lock on the inside of my bedroom door because I don't feel safe in the house. I hope not, because that's not why I wanted the lock at all. I wanted the lock so that they would be safe from me, is how I read that. They would be safe from me. Like, she's some fucking monster. Girl, again, I get it. I'm not trying to be dismissive, but like, this is the only motion I can have. If you're not watching visually, it's like a WTF are you talking about motion. Like, what? Okay, that's fine. In chapter 8, Lowen decides Verity's transcript is a little too heavy. She's like, you know what? Actually, I don't think I want to read that. And so instead, she focuses on writing the next book, like she's supposed to be doing. Homegirl, you've been there for like a week. Your whole job is to be making like 5 figures writing this woman's book, and you haven't done shit but flirt with her husband while she's upstairs and snoop. Oh my God. But while she's doing so, she's thinking about how she's on her period, okay, and how she needs to get tampons. Conveniently, Jeremy says, hey, I have to make a run to Target. Do you want to come with me? Yes, Target is said explicitly, which completely ruined the vibe of the book for me, because I thought we were in like some little haunted, spooky mansion in Vermont. We're up in the middle of the forest and like all by our lonesome. And y'all are running a fucking Target? And where's Crew? Y'all got a nurse for Verity, but where's Crew? Is he at daycare? The nurse is watching him too? What are you talking about? I don't know. It killed the vibe. And so I was like, girl, I hope Colin Hoover got her bag for shouting out Target specifically, because why didn't you say the local general store? Why are you not saying, let's just run into the shop in town? You said Target specifically. I hope she got a check for that. That's all I'm going to say. So they go to Target. They separate because she's got to go get her tampons and he's going to go and get groceries. And so she goes and finds him. And when she comes back, there's these two women surrounding him. And these two women are Verity's friends, supposedly, assumably, whatever. And so she puts her stuff in the cart. The two women look at her sideways, like, what the hell is that about? And they ask as much. And so he introduces her and he's like, hey, this is Laura, Laura Chase. She's from New York. She's working with Verity on the next book. And the women are like, isn't writing like an individual thing? Like, I didn't think that was collaborative. And Jeremy's like, yeah, that's what people outside of the industry think. Okay. And then he says, give my best to Sherman. The woman makes a face. My husband's name is William. Jeremy nods once. Oh, that's right. I get them confused. I hear Patricia scoff as we walk away. When we make it to the next aisle, I say, who is Sherman? The guy she fucks behind her husband's back. I look at him, shocked. He's smiling. Holy shit. I say, laughing. When we get to the register, I can't stop smiling. I don't know that I've ever seen that kind of epic burn in person. Now, I will acknowledge that this book was published in 2018. It was a part of pop culture. I get it to say epic burn, but the idea of putting that into a book that will continue to be published and read for years to come is crazy to me. What an epic le burn. What a le epic burn. God damn, bro. That's so cringy. So anyway, so she's like, oh my God, he's such a little bad. And so in chapter 9, it's like she's only been at this house for 5 freaking days. And she hears a cry from Verity's room, and it's Crew. Crew is sobbing upstairs and he's bleeding and he has a knife next to him on the floor. And I know what you're thinking. That escalated very, very quickly. I was thinking the same thing. So she like scoops Crew up, leaves the knife on the floor, runs him outside. Jeremy comes up. He's like, oh my God, WTF, what happened to Crew? She's like, he had a knife. No. And they end up cleaning him up, whatever. Jeremy's like, hey, will you go get the knife then? Like, go back to Verity's room, go and get it. Lowen does not want to because, again, she's freaked out by Verity. She's freaked out about the whole situation. And when she goes back into the room, the knife isn't there. Oh, okay. And when she, like, gets to the door, she looks back and Verity is staring at her. And she's like, yeah, okay, I gotta go. She's like, even more of a reason I have to leave. And at the end of the chapter, she goes back to Verity's office and she's like, okay, life's crazy. I think I'm actually going to like read more about this book. Like I'm going to read more of her autobiography because I need to see like more about her creepy ass. And also, I'm not sure how much longer that I can try to convince myself that I don't have a serious crush on that man, being Jeremy. I'm also not sure how much longer that I can try to convince myself that Verity is a better person than she really is. I think after reading every book in her series, I'm beginning to understand the reason her suspense novels do so well is because of how well she writes them from the villain's point of view. Critics love that about her. When I listened to her first audiobook on the drive over, I loved that her narrator seemed a little psychotic. I wondered how Verity got in the mind of her antagonist like she did, but that was before I knew her. I still don't technically know her, but I know the Verity who wrote the autobiography, and it's apparent the way that she wrote the rest of her novels wasn't a unique approach for her. After all, they say write what you know, and I'm beginning to think that Verity writes from a villainous point of view because she is a villain. Being evil is all she knows. Okay. So the next chapter is chapter 4 of So Be It, and this is when the twins are born and Verity continues to have what I would consider postpartum depression. She doesn't feel any closeness to her daughters. There's just like no attachment whatsoever, and she's like almost disgusted when Jeremy cries over them and cries over bonding with them. And this is when they first acknowledge the scar on one of the children's cheeks. And he says, I'm worried about the way that it looks. Jeremy said almost offensively, I'm worried that it could be something more serious. And she gets really, really frustrated by this, but kind of blows it off. And then eventually, when they're dealing with the babies and she asks for one of them, she says, bring me the scarred one. Jeremy made a face indicating that he was disappointed in my choice of words. I guess that was a weird way to put it, but we hadn't named them yet, and the scar was her only identifier. So in chapter 10, we go back to current day, and Lowen is reflecting on how detached that Verity seems in these books and how much like how unmotherly that she appears to be and how it's just kind of weird. And she says, oh my God, I hate this woman. I hate her so much. This is Lowen talking about Verity. She seems so cold and hard, but I'm not a mother. Do a lot of mothers feel this way about their children at first? If so, they certainly aren't honest about it. It's probably similar to when a mother claims that she doesn't have a favorite child, but they probably do. It's an unspoken thing between mothers, one I suppose that you don't become aware of until you are one. Or maybe Verity just didn't deserve to be a mother. I think about having children sometimes. I'll be 32 soon, and I'd be lying if I said that I didn't worry that the opportunity might never present itself. But if I ever do find myself in a relationship with a man I'd want to be the father of my children, it would be someone like Jeremy. Rather than appreciate the wonderful father he seemed to be, Verity resented him. Jeremy's love for his girls seemed genuine from the very beginning. It still seems genuine, and it hasn't been that long since he lost them. I keep losing sight of that. He's probably moving through the stages of grief while dealing with Verity and being there for Crew and ensuring the income that they've gotten used to as a family doesn't come to a complete halt. Just a fraction of what he has been through would be too much for some people, but he's dealing with it all at once. Again, a reminder, it's been 6 months since the one daughter, and then I think it's been a year. He's lost both daughters, and it's only been like 4 weeks since his wife has gone into this like coma thing. And you might be thinking to yourself, Kaylee, I feel like you've been a little harsh lately, maybe with this character, whatever. Lohan then immediately goes into talking to Jeremy and asks why one of the twin girls never smiled. She's like, hey, the one literally never smiles in any pictures. What's up with that? And Jeremy says she was diagnosed with Asperger's when she was 3. She wasn't very expressive, which I don't know why. CoHo seems to have a character that is on the spectrum in some capacity in every single one of her books that I have ever read thus far. Be it a neighbor, a random student that they sit next to, some other sibling. Lucy Score has it too, where there's just these like random characters, and it's just like it not done in like a represent kind of way, but done in like a weird icky way that makes me uncomfortable, especially using the term Asperger's. I think even in 2018 or 2017 when the book was being written, that was like an outdated terminology. I don't know. And if you're watching this, I'm waving my chopsticks around because I'm about to eat some sushi between takes. That's like my thing. I usually film on Mondays, and Mondays is my like sushi day. In chapter 11, Verity is just getting more and more uncomfortable. The more that she reads at the manuscript, the more that she keeps catching Verity looking at her and things just being weird around the house. Like, she's just bad vibes, right? She's not about this life anymore. Just bad vibes all around, right? And so she's trying to talk to Verity's nurse. The nurse is actively feeding Verity in front of her, and Lowen is like, yeah, how long have you been helping Verity? Like, how long have you like blah, 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 blah. And eventually the nurse pulls her to the side and she's like, hey, I don't know if you knew this, but like you can't talk about people like they're not in the room. We don't know how much that Verity can process. And so you can't talk about her like she's not here because she might be able to hear you and understand you, and like that's not appropriate behavior. And Lowen, not that she blows it off, but she kind of like is like, oh, okay, cool. Sorry, my bad. But not in like a genuine way where she's like, I don't know, learning to not be a prick. It's just in a like, I don't know, almost like a dismissive way, whatever. Ultimately, Crew, Lowen, and Jeremy end up going out to dinner that night together. I guess the nurse is going to stay back with Verity. And Lowen is like, oh my God, Jeremy's such like a hottie toddy little babe. I really do like him. And so when she gets home that night, this crazy pulls out Verity's autobiography specifically to find a spice scene, like a spice scene description between Jeremy and Verity. I haven't gone into detail about it, but like literally in all of these like autobiography chapters, it has been like detailed, explicit, crazy, raunchy horniness, unadulterated horniness, and depictions of spice scenes to like a disgusting degree, which reinforces my earlier comment about CoHo demonizing women who are like sexually liberated, women who don't want children, women who, I don't know, anyone who's not like the freaking trad wife, evangelical, puritanical, whatever you want to call it. Like if you don't fall into that little bubble, into that little descriptor, then you're just like a freaking little piece of crap, is the way that it's written in CoHo books, where you're just like demonized endlessly. We're not going to get into it. So Lowen is like, he's kind of hot though. Like I kind of want to read more of these little dirty entries. But instead, what she finds in chapter 9 of So Be It is Verity talking about neglecting the babies. When Jeremy goes to work, she'll shut off the baby monitor and just let them cry all day. Won't feed them, won't take care of them, won't change their diapers or anything until like an hour before Jeremy comes home. And she'll do just enough to take care of them and seem like a good wife. And then they'll end up going to sleep when he gets home anyway because they've exhausted themselves from crying. And so she looks like a great mom. Oh my God, dude. And then also, of course, to reinforce what I just said, Verity seduces and forces Jeremy to hook up with her before her doctor's recommendations because she's just such a little heathen, right? I hate it here. So in chapter 12, Lowen suspects that Verity is a psychopath, and she looks up the definition of it and finds that Verity matches every trait. And I'm going to read you these traits real quick because again, genuinely can't tell if this is CoHo being intentional or being a bad writer, which is so sad that I have to question that in any way. I scroll through every personality trait: pathological liar, cunning and manipulative, lack of remorse or guilt, callousness, lack of empathy, and shallow emotional response. She's like, she displays every characteristic, this crazy woman. Okay, again, we'll come back to it later. Immediately after looking that up, Lowen goes through the closet in the master bedroom and picks out one of Jeremy's t-shirts because she doesn't want to wear any of the clothes that she brought with her. No, she wants to wear Jeremy's t-shirts. Not one of Verity's. Not one of Verity's. We're in the master bedroom. I'm sure there's plenty of women's clothes. No. Specifically, she picks out Jeremy's old business. He ran like a real estate company or like he ran a real estate agency or company or something before Verity got big as an author, and then he ended up quitting his job when she got big enough so that he could stay home and take care of the kids or whatever. And yeah, so she puts on one of Jeremy's old business t-shirts. Love that. Love that so much for us. She also goes down to the basement. Jeremy asks her to go down to the basement with him to get a thing down there, and the boxes are kind of disturbed. They're grabbing like an aquarium for Crew because he found a turtle that he wants to keep. It really doesn't mean anything. It's just a thing that's happening, okay? She goes down to the basement and sees some stuff. They end up getting shut down there though, like the lights randomly turn off and the door shuts. So that's kind of creepy and weird. So they have to like wiggle their way up there in the dark and get out. So that's a little bit alarming. Obviously somebody shut them down there. And chapter 12 ends with Lowen wrapping herself in Jeremy's t-shirt, and she's just thinking about how miserable it would be to be Verity, to just be in this like dark blank world where you don't recognize anything, and how much of a nightmare that it would be. And so in chapter 13, she wakes up in Verity's hospital bed. She wakes up next to Verity in Verity's hospital bed. Holy shit. It's the first time that she's sleepwalked in months, years, whatever. And she's like, I don't know if this is because I fell asleep thinking of Verity, or if it's just bad vibes in the house, or if I'm just stressed out with everything going on, but like, holy shit, that's scary. She like screams when she first wakes up and is like absolutely mortified, runs out of the room, ends up running into Jeremy, who attempts to comfort her. And now she has to like be honest with him about her sleepwalking incident when she was 10 years old. She asks out aloud to Jeremy, like, how can I inflict that much pain on myself and not be aware of it? And she goes on to explain that in reaction to that happening, her mother placed 3 locks on her door, and that she was also sent away for like a 2-week like psychiatric evaluation by her mother and has had like extensive therapy since then. And Jeremy just holds her until that he believes that she's sleeping afterward because he's comforting her. Oh my God. In chapter 14, it's the next morning, and Jeremy's like, hey, if it would make you feel better, we can put a lock on the outside of your door. Like, I'll just lock you in every night right when you go to sleep, and then that way you won't be able to escape. She's like, that's a little horrifying, but I think I'm into it. She's like, I think that might be actually the only thing that'll help me get through this. So yeah, let's do it. Oh, okay. I guess we've never heard of fires. I guess we've never heard of fire safety or anything like that. And so she's kind of, I don't know, freaking out, a little reflective about this whole sleepwalking thing. And she decides that the only way that she can comfort herself is by reading another one of Verity's books, or another one of the chapters in Verity's book, right? So that's what the next chapter is. We are in chapter 6. It is 6 months after the twins' birth, and Verity is still incredibly jealous of her girls. Like, she is having such a hard time accepting that Jeremy's time is now split between the 3 of them. And she ends up having this horrific, very realistic nightmare that the one twin murders the other. And this results in her having like a complete favorite, right? So there's Harper and Chasten. Harper is the child with Asperger's and also the child who unalives Chasten in Verity's dream. And so all of a sudden, going from complete uninterest to both of the twins, Verity she has favoritism, right? She completely loves Chasten and is like cherishing these moments that she has with Chasten because she's waiting for Harper to unalive her. And even worse than that, Verity at 6 months old tries to unalive Harper with the idea, if I unalive, I don't even have words, with the idea that like I'll unalive her before she unalives her sister. And it again is horrifically detailed about a mother trying to unalive her 6-month-old daughter. How in the fuck does anybody write that? Come up with it, let alone write it? Like, maybe some thoughts aren't worth having. Maybe some things aren't worth writing down. Maybe those just need to get locked away forever. You know what I mean? Nope, I had to read it. I had to read a horrific thing that I'm not going to repeat, actually, about harming her daughter. Luckily, it doesn't actually work. Oh, I guess I have to tell you because it is actually relevant. She tries to make Harper choke on her own vomit. Okay? That's the extent of what I will say. She tries to make Harper choke on her own vomit and die, and it does not work. Luckily, Jeremy comes in and stops her before she's successful with this. And we go back to chapter 15 in current day. Lowen is horrified by this, as she has been with every part of Verity's manuscript. And she notes that in the chapters going forward, she does not talk about Harper. She only talks about Chasten. Complete favoritism here. She does not talk about Harper again until their 3rd birthday. Just complete and utterly ignoring this poor child. That night, she ends up outside with Jeremy, watching a meteor shower. Don't look at me like that. I don't know. They're watching a meteor shower. They're talking about life and I don't know, crazy stuff. And it ultimately ends up with Jeremy being like, hey, I remember you saying how you went to therapy for your whole sleepwalking thing when you were a child. Do you think therapy was beneficial for you as a child? And do you think that I should send Crew to therapy? I tried to immediately after the accident with the sisters, but I didn't want to continue re-traumatizing him by sending him to therapy and talking about it. So what are your thoughts, Lowen? As if she's a qualified professional to make such a determination, she's like, yeah, I think you should. And then they go inside. There's the new lock on the outside of Lowen's door. She's incredibly flattered and kind of surprised by this. And I'm gonna read you this next part because I'm actually incredibly confused about the semantics here. I go to shut the door, but he puts his hands up, stopping me from closing it all the way. I pull it open again, and in the split second since I almost closed it, his expression changed. So she tries to close the door, he stops it, I pull it open again, and in the split second since I almost closed it, his expression changed. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, sure, whatever. His expression changed because he's like, hey, I have to admit something to you. She's like, uh-oh, okay, what's up? He says, Verity has never actually read one of your books. I'm the one who read your book, and it was good, phenomenal, which is why I suggested your name to her editor. Your writing matters to me, Lowen. If you don't get the fuck out of here. Okay, yep, yeah, okay. Hey. You better lay low. Sorry. Oh, hold on. So, oh, I hate men. He requested her to come to the house and has continually encouraged her to stay in said house, stay in their master bedroom, take over the place. She has referred to Verity's office as her office. She says, I need to go to my office. There was a point, I forgot to say it earlier, and it was one of the most horrific things I read in this book, and so I really, really regret not saying it, so I'll say it now. In one of the early chapters, Lowen was in the master bedroom, and when she stepped out into the hallway, she heard this weird creaking up above her, which would have been Verity's room. And it's this constant anyway, she's like, oh my God, I think he might be assaulting his semi-comatose wife. This might be the most horrific thing I've ever heard. Lowen is thinking this. They say this in the book. Jeremy comes around the corner. She's like, oh, thank God, that's not what it is. And he goes on to explain, hey, that weird noise that you're hearing right now, it's her bed. She has a mechanical bed that inflates and rotates her every couple of hours to help with her pressure points so that she doesn't get bed sores. And he goes on to say, I'll turn it off if it bothers you. Okay, yeah. I'll let my comatose wife that I have loved and been with for over 10 years, I will turn off her mechanical bed thing that keeps her comfortable and from getting freaking sepsis. I don't know if that's what you get from infected bed sores. I'll turn it off for you, you little hottie babe that I lied to so that you would come and stay in my home. I can only imagine how this movie goes. I swear to God, if they pull some bullshit, if they pull some Blake Lively fucking whatever Baldoni bullshit where they try and romanticize this and make it sound like he's a good guy in the book, or that Lowen is a good person it was already bad enough with the last one. I'm not getting into it. It Ends With Us was already so freaking horrific. But this one, bro, my guy, oh my Jesus, I don't even have the words. I don't even have the arm motions to express. I'm just I don't know what to do with my hands. I hate it here. What are you talking about? Anyway, that's a very long way of saying that he's the one who suggested her name and wanted her to come to his house and go through all of this stuff. And this is before he ran into her in the street after the freaking little car accident thing. So I'm going back to the point, right? I'm bringing it back, taking it back. What are the chances that he just happened to see this woman on the street experience this horrific thing and then take her away and not seduce her? He took her to a bathroom and gave him his shirt, right? The shirt off of his back. What are the chances that he just happened to be there? I mean, it's Manhattan at 9:30. You guys had a meeting at the same building at the same time. Maybe you ended up staying in similar areas and walked the same path, but it's awfully convenient because he would have known who she was from the very beginning. He knew who she was. He would have looked at her and known who she was, and he never said anything. This man is crazy. And this woman is so stupid, but we'll get there. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt for now because you don't know any better. So we'll pretend she doesn't know any better. we'll come back to this. I keep saying that, but we will, I promise. So in chapter 9, Verity's manuscript is talking about when they first moved to Vermont and she put the girls in daycare because she didn't want to deal with them during the day. And she was like, it's perfect because the girls are gone all day, so I get to write. And then when they come home, that's when Jeremy comes home. So then then he parents them. So she's like, this is great. This is a wonderful setup. And it's a little bit into daycare. And all she can talk about is Chasten. She's like, yeah, Chasten's doing such good progress. She said her first word, she did X, Y, and Z, and Jeremy's like continually being irritated with her. And Verity in her manuscript is very confused. She's like, I don't know why he's mad at me, but like I made him chicken and dumplings to try and like rekindle our relationship, and like I'm gonna give him like later and it's gonna be great and he'll like love me again and blah blah blah. And he just continues to be short with her. And eventually he's like, hey, you only talk about Chasten. You're playing favorites. This is inappropriate. The girls are going to pick up on it. Like, do you not love Harper? WTF is going on? And her response, this manipulative bitch, at least in the transcript, she says, Jeremy, of course I wouldn't play favorites. It's just that Chasten needs reassurance and I'm proud of her. And Harper, she'll do whatever she does and I just don't relate to her and she doesn't need words of affirmation. She's just such a good girl on her own. And, I made you your favorite things and I'm wearing lingerie right now because I'm pregnant. You're going to yell at me and be mad at me when I just wanted to give you the best dinner of your life and tell you that I'm pregnant with your third child because I'm so excited to have another one with you? You're such an asshole. Okay, that's fine. Oh, and then she goes on to be like, yeah, and Jeremy, the other thing about why I don't talk about Harper like that is because I've been avoiding talking about her because one of the daycare women said that we need to test her for autism and I didn't want you to be concerned. So don't worry, I called a specialist and she's gonna go and get tested for autism soon, and that's why I kept it a secret from you. That's why I've been scared to talk about her because I didn't want to alarm you. So she thinks to herself immediately after, she's like, okay, I'm going to have to call the autism specialist tomorrow, and also I'm going to have to get pregnant very quickly in the next week or so, or have to fake a miscarriage to cover up her lies. Okay, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's cool. It's cool. I still don't know how somebody comes up with this shit. I don't know how anybody thinks of these things. I don't know why I have to read such a thing. So it's chapter 16. Current day. It's a week later and Lowen continues to read the manuscript from Verity, but she's getting very tired of it because it's like very repetitive spice scenes. And she's like, I want to skip the spice scenes and just figure it out how she unalived Harper. And I'm like, that's how I feel. That's how I feel reading any CoHo book. Skip the spice, girl. Give me the freaking meat of the book. And I just finished what is it called? I finished Pen Pal by J.T. Glissgler? I don't know, something. I finished Pen Pal, and it was the same thing where I was like, hey, this is not the time for spice. I need answers. I need answers right now to this crazy stuff that you're writing. If you want to write spice, like go write some fucking smut on AO3. Give me a real book right now. I don't want to download smut on Kindle. Girl, if I want that, I'll go places where I can find that. I want a book, and you're telling me crazy stuff. I'm going to do a rant review on that book, because that was crazy. Anyway, a week passes. She's getting tired. She's getting tired of reading this, like, repetitive smut. Respect. She also finally freaking submits her draft for the first book outline. She finally does her job. She's been up there for however long, weeks now, and she finally submits the first draft of the outline of a book. Not saying it doesn't take a long time, I get it, and that's a lot of work and whatever, but this bitch has been distracted, so like, but she has writer's block. Again, not sure how. You haven't really done anything. And so she goes downstairs to watch TV. She runs into Jeremy, and they end up having all of these conversations, trying to get to know each other, and they finally realize, like, wow, we don't even know anything about each other. Like, how old are you? Jeremy's 35 and she's turning 32 literally the next day. So he's like, oh my God, what a depressing way to spend your birthday. I'm going to go and make you a cake. And he does. He's about to. When he comes back in, they end up like making out in the living room. They like start or are about to start like banging. And she opens her eyes and looks over Jeremy's shoulder. And at the top of the stairs is Verity watching them. Excuse me? So she says, in the heat of the moment, like stuff is happening between them, and she's like, Verity. And he doesn't stop. He just like keeps going, and she's like, Verity. And he just like keeps going, and she's like, Verity! And so finally, I have to like hold myself. So finally he stops and he's like, what the fuck? And she's like, Verity is right there. Like, Verity is staring at us. He rushes upstairs to check on her. And of course, Verity is in her bed sleeping. The little boy is in his bed sleeping. And so Jeremy comes back down and he's like, hey, crazy bitch, what are you talking about? There's nothing happening. Like, if you're regretting what's happening between us, just say that. Like, you know what I mean? He's like kind of turned off by the moment and stuff. But she just keeps crying. And she's like, no, seriously, like, this really happened. I swear to God. Da 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 da. They end up going to her room and they cuddle, and he like comforts her. He like comforts her through the night of like, it's okay, baby. Oh my God. You might be seeing crazy things, but like, I don't know. I hate it here. That's all I can say. And the whole time, again, hey, I just want to make it very, very clear. I'm going to read you a quote and you'll understand. And she says, I'm aching everywhere because he's so close, but I don't know what I'm allowed to do about it. I want to drop my fork. I want him to drop the plate of cake. I want him to kiss me, but I'm not the married one here. I don't want to make the first move, and he shouldn't make the first move, but I'm desperate for him. And this is where I say, you home wrecking MF and B word. I have so many curse words that I can't even say right now. And she also, in the midst of doing this and having all this happening, she's thinking, I understand that he made vows, but at what cost? His entire life? People get married assuming that they'll live long, happy lives together. What happens when one of those is cut short, but the other is expected to live out those vows for the rest of their life? It doesn't seem fair. I know if I were ever married and my husband were in Jeremy's predicament, I wouldn't want my husband to feel like he could never move on, but I'm not sure I'll ever be as obsessed with a man as Verity was with Jeremy. Hey, it has been less than a month. Well, I guess now it's been over a month. So a little over a month. Like, when Verity first got there, it had been less than a month. Or when Lowen had first got there, it had been like 4 weeks. It's been a month. And your wife is having brain scans where nothing is wrong. Like, your wife, nothing is, okay. She's had CT scans. She's had x-rays. She's had all these things where they're like, hey, nothing's wrong with her. Like, she should be totally fine. We're not really too sure what's going on. And it's been only a couple of weeks. And like, you can't say that. And in my note, I had on here, dude, I thought Verity was supposed to be the villain. I thought she was the one that I'm supposed to not like. I'm starting to think that Lowen is actually the bad guy here. Cut back to chapter 13 of the So Be It thing by Verity. She was able to get pregnant with Crew within 2 weeks of lying to Jeremy about her pregnancy. It was as if fate were on my side. I thanked God with a prayer, even though I don't believe he had a hand in it. Life was good for a while. I did all the easy parts of mothering, and Jeremy and the nanny did all the hard parts. I traveled a lot. I had booked tours and interviews, which I didn't really like leaving Jeremy for, but he preferred to stay home with the kids. I grew to appreciate those breaks, though I noticed when I was gone for a week, the attention that Jeremy gave me when I returned home was like the attention he used to pay me before the kids came along. Sometimes I would lie and say that I was needed in New York, but I would hole up in an Airbnb in Chelsea and watch television for a week. Then I would go home and Jeremy would F me like I was his virgin. Life was great. Until it wasn't. It happened in an instant. It was like the sun froze and darkened on our lives, and no matter how hard we tried, the rays couldn't reach us after that. I was standing at the sink, washing a chicken. A fucking raw chicken. I could have been doing anything else. Watering the lawn, writing, knitting, anything else, but I will forever think of that fucking disgusting raw chicken when I think about the moment that we were told that we lost Chasten. The phone rang. I was washing the chicken. Jeremy answered it. I was washing the chicken. He raised his voice, still washing the chicken. And then the sound, that guttural, painful sound. I heard him say no and how and where is she and we'll be right there. When he ended the call, I could see him in the reflection of the window. He was in the hallway gripping the door frame like he was going to fall to his knees if he didn't. I was still washing the chicken. Tears were streaming down my... Sorry. This is so serious right now, Kaylee. Get it together. Tears were streaming down my cheeks. My knees were weak. Knees weak. Vomit on a sweater already. My stomach began to lurch. I vomited on the chicken. What was the one earlier? We da-da-da-da-da. We effed. Da-da-da-da-da. We effed. Da-da-da-da-da. Raw chicken. Girl, get creative. Can we? Okay, you know, I understand. Okay, this is where I would just like to, hey, I would like to acknowledge something serious. What Colleen Hoover is trying to predict is PTSD. Traumatic events, your body gets hung up or your brain gets hung up on very specific things that are happening. And it can feel ironic and horrific and horrible and whatever. The things that your brain latches onto for grounding purposes maybe would be the word, to, I don't know, keep you in touch with reality while the rest of your world falls apart. Whatever it may be, it's usually something so stupid and minute and little, like raw chicken, for example. The intent of what Colleen Hoover is trying to get across should be solid. Objectively, from like an outsider standpoint, the idea of what she's trying to do should be great. The execution is poor, which is what I feel like I say for every single Colleen Hoover book. The idea is great. The message is, maybe not the message, the idea is great. Like from like the 10,000 foot point of view, it's wonderful. But from like actual level, it's actually horrifically done. The execution is bad. I just keep holding myself like this. Like from like one point of view, it should be good, and I'm so disappointed that it's not. But I think I've also accepted that like nothing by CoHo will ever be good, which I don't like to be such a negative freaking little Nancy about it. But anyway, Chasten's dead. Sorry. I'm not trying to be dismissive of it. It's serious. Chasten had a peanut allergy that they were all so adamant about everybody knowing about. And Chasten was at a sleepover. Chasten and Harper were at a sleepover with a friend, and they ended up, the girls decided they wanted a snack. Harper said that they didn't realize that anything they were eating contained peanuts, but when they woke up the next morning, Chasten wouldn't wake up. And like, you're telling me, I get it, 8-year-olds, you should be able to read a food label, but like if you can't, that's fine. I mean, food labels are confusing, whatever. I'm not gonna like hold a child responsible for their own whatever. I'm not victim blaming here. What I will say, it's not funny, but like nobody heard her suffering from breathing or like going into anaphylactic shock. Was this just like a mild allergy that just got like worse as she slept? I don't want to talk about it graphically, but like what the fuck? So Verity obviously took this as Harper intentionally poisoned her sister and unalived her sister. So Verity begins to have a justified, in her own mind, a justified, deep-seated hatred for Harper for unaliving her favorite child, Chasten. Oh my god. Oh my god. Right? Freaking horrendous. So we go into chapter 18, back to current day with Lowen, and she goes downstairs into the living room. Verity is in the living room watching Wheel of Fortune with her nurse. The nurse steps out of the room to go and make some lunch, and there's only 2 chapters left of the manuscript. So Lowen is thankful for that, but also she's like, I don't know, she's feeling a lot of feelings about everything that she's read so far, which is understandably so. But all of a sudden, she's in the kitchen and she realizes she doesn't hear the TV on anymore. And she also realizes that the nurse is like with her or out of the room, or I don't know, wherever the hell the nurse went. And so the only person who could have turned off the TV would be Verity. And so Lowen thinks quite possibly the most realistic thought that I've ever read in a CoHo book. And she says, I close my eyes, already feeling the quickening of my pulse. If this bitch turned off that goddamn television, I'm walking out of the front door without shoes on and I'm never coming back. I clench my fists at my sides, growing really tired of this house and this fucking creepy ass psychotic woman. I don't tiptoe into the living room. I stomp. And so she stomps right up to Verity, right up into her face, and she says, you're a fucking cunt. To an otherwise she has no evidence against. I just want to be clear. She maybe saw her, you know, kind of looking at her, and she saw her at the top of the stairs supposedly, and I'm like, I'm not trying to discredit anybody's experiences here, but there's no valid any proving facts or whatever. She just gets into this woman's face and says, you're a C word? You're a see you next Tuesday? Oh my god. Get out of here. Then she goes on to say, you don't deserve to you don't deserve the body that you're trapped in, I whisper, staring straight into her eyes. I hope you die with a throat full of your own vomit the same way that you attempted to kill your infant daughter. I wait. If she's in there, if she heard me, if she's faking it, my words would have reached her. They would make her flinch or lash out or something. She doesn't move. I try to think of something else to say that would make her react, something that she wouldn't be able to keep her composure after hearing. I stand up and lean to her, bringing my mouth to her ear. Jeremy is going to f me in your bed tonight. I wait again for a noise, for a movement. The only thing I notice is the smell of urine. It fills the air, my nostrils. I look down at her pants right when Jeremy begins to descend the stairs. Did you need me? He yells because she called for him when she noticed the TV being turned off. Oh my god. So she's like, she just peed herself. And Jeremy grabs the handles of the wheelchair and takes her upstairs to go and like clean her up. Oh my god, dude. Could you imagine? Again, we'll talk about this later once you know everything that's going on. Again, we'll say, for the sake of argument, as far as Lowen is concerned, everything that she has heard is that this woman is unresponsive and is in some type of like whatever state. Saying that to somebody? Okay, yeah, sure. So then, I gotta pull my hair up for this. When I talk about this, so I feel like I'm about to fight somebody right now. So Jeremy cleans up Verity, comes back down a little bit late for dinner, and then he and Lowen have a little bit of back and forth and discussion, and he's like, hey, what is wrong with you? Like, what's going on? What's the problem? And she says, I just feel bad for you. Don't. I can't help it. You can. No, I can't. He opens the microwave and pulls out his bowl. He sets it on the counter to cool off, and he faces me again. This is my life, Lowen, and I can't do anything about it. You feeling sorry for me doesn't help. But you're wrong. You can do something about it. You don't have to live like this, day in and day out. There are facilities, places that can take much better care of her. She'll have more opportunity, and you and crew won't be tied to this house every day for the rest of your lives. Jeremy's jaw hardens. I knew I shouldn't have said anything. I appreciate that you think I deserve better, but put yourself in Verity's shoes. He has no idea how far I've walked in Verity's shoes over the past 2 weeks. Believe me, I have been. I make a frustrated fist and tap on the counter, trying to find a better way to word it all. She wouldn't want this for you, Jeremy. You're a prisoner in your own home. Crew is a prisoner in this home. He needs to get away from this house, take him on vacations, go back to work, and put her in a facility where she can receive full-time care. And so Jeremy goes on to say, and he's like, hey, I can't do that to Crew. He just lost his sisters. Like, I can't move him. He can't lose his mom on top of all of this. Break. Literally a page and a half later, the next highlight I have is them banging and Jeremy saying, I don't have a condom, he says as he cups my ass and pulls me closer. I'm not on the pill. My words don't prevent him from lifting me and lowering me, blah, 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 blah. And he says, I'll pull out. And she says, all right. I hate it here. I need to hit something. I have a punching bag. I talked about this in one of my other videos recently. I have a punching bag over there. The way that I'm about to take up kickboxing, the way that I'm about to sign up for some in kickboxing classes to get this frustration out of my body. What do you mean? She has been in whatever state, not really disclosed at this point, for 4 weeks, and he's banging another woman in their bedroom. I hate it here. And you know what's even worse than that? What's even worse than all of that is they do end up banging. So she also on top of all of that, she said that to Verity earlier as like a threat, I don't know, trying to get like a reaction out of her or whatever. Her and Jeremy, Lowen and Jeremy, end up banging in the master bedroom. So Lowen is looking at those teeth marks on the headboard before they got mentioned, which is crazy. Sorry if you saw that. She's looking, they're doing it, whatever. And she's looking at the headboard and she's seeing these teeth marks again. And she's like, ugh, I'm gonna do that. She bites over the teeth marks on the headboard with her own teeth to like remark it. I bite down on the wood in front of me. I can feel Verity's teeth marks beneath mine, different, unaligned with my own. I bite harder into the wood as I determined to leave deeper marks than she ever did, determined to think only of Jeremy and me every time that I look at this headboard in the future. This home-wrecking bitch. Dude, I can't deal with this. In chapter 19, they just keep banging. And they go on to have this like back and forth and talking about their like experiences, whatever. She ends up being like, I've only been with like a couple of guys and whatever. And my last boyfriend was my agent. And Jeremy's like, the agent that I met in New York, like the agent that worked with you, like Chris or whatever the hell his name was, Corey. She's like, yeah, that's the guy. And Jeremy says, is he still your agent? She says, yeah, he's a great agent. That just made me a little jealous, Jeremy says. Again, what the fuck do you mean? You're married. You can't be jealous of a dude that she said was like hey, it's before you, so you can't be jealous in general. Like, you're kind of a piece of shit for that. But also, you're married, and also triple whammy, your wife is just upstairs. You're still married. It's not like you're separated. It's not like we had a tumultuous relationship and she's a terrible person and we're like not even together like that. You were happily married and now you're banging someone else. And you're feeling jealousy about them banging other people. You can't be jealous about an affair partner for having I don't even have the words. What do you mean? Ugh. And so then her response is like, have you ever been in love? Did you ever feel that connection with Verity? And he's like, maybe I did love her. I loved her past tense. And so Lowen's like, catches onto that and she's like, he said past tense. And then also he says, no. He never felt that connection with her. And so then she's like, did you eventually find that connection? And Jeremy says, not like I had hoped, but I felt something close to it. A fleeting intensity that proved a deeper connection can exist. When was that? Several weeks ago, he said quietly, in a random coffee shop bathroom with a woman who wasn't my wife. And I would just like to say, that's not hot. If he'll cheat with you, he'll cheat on you, or she. If they'll cheat with you, they'll cheat on you, okay? That's actually not hot. That's actually red flag, bro. Karma comes around, bro. If there's anything that I believe in this life, I believe in karma. What you do will, in fact, come around back to you like tenfold, threefold, whatever the saying is. You will get got. Anyway, They bang. Anybody surprised? They end up falling asleep together though, and he was supposed to leave and go back up to his room. He doesn't. He wakes up. He tries to leave. The door is locked from the outside. Fire hazard. He's like, holy shit. He tries to stay calm about it and try and like rationale it out. And she's like, hey, don't mean to freak you out there, buddy boy, but like if somebody locked us in here, they probably stole your son. If somebody was willing to lock us in here, they probably took Crew and they're like long gone by now. So awkward. And so Jeremy ends up busting out the window and crawls out the window and then goes inside and everybody's okay. Crew and Verity are both still asleep. Okay, so then he lets Lowen out and then they just go on about their day as if nothing happened. This is the craziest book I think I've ever read, and not in a good way, just in like a I don't know, man. I don't know what's happening. In chapter 14 from the So Be It book, the Verity opens the chapter and she's like, it's easy to remember the day that Harper died because it only happened a few days ago. And goes on to say how, essentially, she was thinking to herself, when you have already lost one child, you might as well have lost them all. And so her plan is to unalive Harper because she already gave all of her sadness to Chasten's death, and she's hoping that Jeremy also gave all of his sadness to Chasten's death, and so now Harper will die and it won't really matter, and instead Jeremy will be grateful that they only have one child because that means that they'll have more time for each other. And Lowen reads that and believes it. Okay, long story short, Jeremy goes off to work and Verity ends up taking Harper and Crew out on a little boat out into the middle of the lake, flips the boat, tells Crew to hold his breath right before they flip the boat, and then saves Crew, swims to shore with him, and just lets Harper drown. She goes back out there to try and find Harper, and she pretends to find Harper, and she can't. And, does the whole, like, dutiful housewife, oh my god, I'm out of breath by the time the police get here. She gets Crew to call 911 and to call his dad, and she, like, pretends to find Harper until she's about to pass out, and it's, like, this whole freaking thing. Jeremy comes back, and it's just, like, again, an incredibly traumatic thing. Jeremy didn't ask me what happened. He didn't tell me that he was leaving. When he was getting into the ambulance with Harper's dead body, she was like underwater for 8 whole entire minutes until Jeremy was able to get there and like dive into the water and found her. Like, actually, it might have been 30. It was obviously she's dead type of thing. I cannot explain to you. I'm trying to skim over it how horrific these entries were in this autobiography, okay? So Jeremy didn't ask me what had happened. He didn't tell me that he was leaving in the ambulance with his dead daughter. He didn't look at me at all. His reaction wasn't quite what I had planned, but I realized he was in shock. He would adjust. He just needed time. In chapter 20, Lowen, reacting to reading such a thing, is vomiting in the toilet, which, same bestie, I think I would be too. But then she goes on to like pop Xanax and take some shots of Crown. Like, girl, like, obviously a death wish. What are you talking about? Jeremy ends up finding her. They kind of lay together. They bond a little bit. They have a little bit of chit chat. He's asking if she's okay. And I don't know. It's this whole stupid, they're about to start hooking up thing. And he starts talking about how I called the nursing facility who will take her during the week, starting Monday. She'll come home 3 weekends a month. He waits for my reaction. I think that's the best thing for all 3 of you. And she's thinking to herself, he deserves to be with someone who will put her love for his children before anything else. And so after Lowen and Jeremy hook up, he's like, hey, you know what? I'll get rid of my wife. I'll put her in a home and I'll be with you, affair partner. That's what I'm going to call her because that's what she is. I'm going to be with you, affair partner. They bang, and I pull the pillow off of my face and I place it under my hips, lifting them so that everything he just left inside of me doesn't seep out. And she purposefully tries to get pregnant to have this psychopath's baby. It's not a surprise pregnancy, so I guess at least we're not going to get a bingo out of this. This was like wholly intentional of a guy that she has known for like at most a month and a half, but she's fallen in love with him because of Verity's words. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. In chapter 21, she goes to sleep after this whole situation and she has a dream that Crew is evil. He's about 16 years old and he's just bad. And she just gets this like really, really weird vibe. And and realizing, this, she's like, oh my God, he needs therapy. And since his own father doesn't know the extent of what he's been put through by Verity, I feel like that's on me because I'm the one that's been reading the transcripts. And so I'm the only one that knows the truth. I know what Crew has seen and the type of things that he's been put through. And so I'm the one with the manuscript. I'm the one with the responsibility to tell Jeremy if I think his son has been damaged more than he thinks. And my comment says, hey, yo, bitch. I think actually, I'm pretty sure there's professionals for that. I don't think it should be some random Joe Schmo girl from Manhattan that like doesn't even know this family. What do you mean? And so she approaches Crew. He's like eating peanut butter in the kitchen And she says, Crew, there's a little bit more introduction to it, but ultimately she says, do you remember being in the canoe with your mother and Harper? Crew doesn't nod or say yes. He stares at me, and I can't tell if he's scared to answer the question or if he doesn't remember. Again, hey, reminder, he's like 4 years old, 5 at the most at this point, okay? Just a reminder. He glances down at the table, breaking eye contact with me. He sticks the knife into the jar again and puts it in his mouth, closing his lips over it. Crew, I say, scooting closer to him, placing a gentle hand on his knee. Why did the boat tip over? Crew's eyes flick back to mine, and he pulls the knife out of his mouth for a moment, long enough to say, Mommy said that I shouldn't talk to you if you ask me questions about her. What the fuck? I feel the color drain from my face as he casually licks the knife again. I grip the edge of the table, my knuckles white. Your mother talks to you? Crew stares at me for a few seconds without giving me an answer, and then he shakes his head with a look in his eye that makes me feel that he's about to backtrack. He realizes he shouldn't have said that. Crew, does your mommy pretend that she can't talk? Crew's teeth clench down while the butter knife is still in his mouth. I see the knife slip between his teeth into his gums. Blood begins to slide down his front teeth onto his lips. Yeah, hey, you know, so that whole therapy thing? So she starts screaming for Jeremy. She's like, hey. She doesn't say this, but I would. Your kid's fucking crazy. You should probably come down here. So Jeremy comes running, and she's covered in Crew's blood at this point because she's like trying to help him, whatever, clean out the mouth. Okay, so then Jeremy runs downstairs, and he's like, holy shit, he's going to need stitches. And so they all try to pile into his Jeep. And then he's like, hey, Lowen, you can't come with us, actually. Like, you need to stay here with Verity. I can't leave her by herself because the nurse isn't there. So she runs back inside. She immediately goes up to Verity's room and is going to lock the door because she's like, I'm not dealing with this shit. She's crazy. So she immediately runs up to Verity's room. She's in her bed. The covers are halfway off of her body, and one of her legs is dangling as if Jeremy heard me screaming before he could get her all the way in bed. Not my problem, I think. I slam the door and lock it, and then think about what I can do next to ensure my own safety. I rush downstairs when I remember seeing the baby monitor in the basement. The last place I want to be is the basement, but I power through my fear using the light on my cell phone and walk down the stairs. When I was down here with Jeremy, I didn't give the basement much of an inspection, but I know some of the boxes that were stacked up were closed. As I shine my light around the room, I noticed almost all of the boxes have been moved and opened as if someone were rummaging through them. Oh God, that's scary. But she ends up finding the baby monitor, rushes into Verity's room, throws it in there really quick, closes the door, locks it again, and then goes to the office. I make sure my camera's on video mode. It's like the most boomer ass way to say that. She's trying to record the baby monitor in case Verity moves, right? While waiting, she waits for, I don't know, a couple minutes, couple hours, whatever. Verity does not move from her position. And so she's like, okay, well, in the meantime, I'm going to finish the manuscript. I'm here anyway. I might as well multitask, might as well get some stuff done. So chapter 15, it's only been a few days since Harper died. And I feel my world has shifted more in those few days than it has than all of my years on Earth. Crew has ultimately been incredibly traumatized by everything that's happening. And so he's been sleeping in bed with Verity and Jeremy. Verity has been upset by this, obviously, because she was hoping that losing another child would mean that her and Jeremy would be closer together, but really they're further apart because Crew is quite literally further apart because Crew's been sleeping between the two of them, right? However, she tells Jeremy this couple days later, and she's like, hey, I need you to sleep between us because I need to cuddle you or whatever. I need to bond with you. And Jeremy asks her explicitly, he's like, hey, why did you tell Crew to hold his breath, Verity? Oh shit. The 4-year-old opened his mouth. Jeremy knows that Verity purposefully drowned Harper, and Verity has no excuse. She doesn't know what to say. Jeremy just rolls over, and she has no argument to anything that's happening. Anything at all. And she thinks I tried to lie still with no reaction so that he would think that I fell asleep, but all I did was cry quietly. When my tears began to increase, I walked to my office and I closed the door before Jeremy could hear me sobbing. When I got to my office, I opened my manuscript and I began to type. It feels as though there's nothing left to say. No future to write about, no past to redeem. Am I at the end of my story? I don't know what happens next. Unlike my predictions of Chasten's murder, I don't know how my life will end. Will it be at the hands of Jeremy? Or will it be by my own hand? Or maybe it won't end at all. Maybe Jeremy will wake up tomorrow and see me sleeping next to him. Maybe he'll remember all the good times, all the blowjobs, all the swallowing. Jesus Christ. And he'll realize, sorry, I didn't detail that for obvious reasons. Jesus Christ. And he'll realize how much more time we'll have to do those things now that we only have one child. Or maybe he'll wake up convinced that Harper's death was not an accident. Maybe he'll report me to the police. Maybe he'll want to see me suffer for what I did to her. If that's the case, so be it. I'll just drive my car into a tree. The end. Good God. Okay, hey, that's a hell of a way to end a memoir, I guess. Or autobiography, whatever. I don't know the difference. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, I mean, sure. Yeah. Chapter 22, it's the next day, and Crew and Jeremy are back from the hospital. He got his stitches or whatever. They wake up in the morning, and Jeremy and Lowen are getting some coffee in the kitchen, and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe he suspected her. He knew how much of a mess that Verity was, but he stayed with her and like XYZ, whatever. She has a little bit of chit chat with Jeremy, and then she goes up to the office to continue working. She still has the baby monitor on Verity though. And there's one point where she's staring at the monitor, and Verity is on the floor on her hands and knees. I lunge for my phone at the same time that I scream Jeremy's name. Verity's head tilts to the side as if she heard my scream from upstairs, and before I can open my camera app with unsteady fingers, she crawls back into bed and gets into position and stills herself. She continues yelling for Jeremy, and then eventually Lowen just runs upstairs to go and confront Verity herself. So she runs up into the bedroom, and she's like berating Verity, like about to beat the absolute crap out of this woman, and Jeremy runs in and is pulling her out, forces her back into the master bedroom, and then forces her to pack up. And he's like, dude, you're being so crazy right now. Get the fuck out of my house. I can't believe that you would say this. Obviously, she's paralyzed. She has issues. She has whatever going on. Like, she's not there, Lowen. I don't know what you're talking about. This is like the second or third time that you've said that you've seen her move. Like, shut up and get out of my house. In response, Lowen says, Jeremy, no, she's faking it. She's faking it. You know she's faking it. And he's like, it's impossible. And she says, it isn't. And you know it isn't. She killed Harper, and you know it. You suspected it. I can prove it. He follows after me as I run into Verity's office. I grab the manuscript, every page of it, and I turn around just as he reaches me, and I shove it into his chest. Read it. He catches the pages, looks down at them, looks up at me. Where did you find this? It's hers. It's all there from the day that you met up until her car wreck. Read it. At least read the last 2 chapters. I don't care. Just please read it. I'm exhausted, and I have nothing else in me but please. So I beg him quietly, please, Jeremy, for your girls. He's still looking at me like he doesn't trust a single word coming out of my mouth. He doesn't have to. If he would just read those pages, see what his wife was truly thinking in the moments that she was with him, he'll know that I'm not the one that he needs to worry about. I can feel the fear welling up in me, the fear of losing him. He thinks I'm crazy, that I was trying to hurt his wife. He wants me to leave his home. He wants me to walk out of here, and he never wants to see me again. My eyes sting as the tears begin to fall down my cheeks. Please, I whisper, please, you deserve to know the truth. In chapter 23, she's listening and she's waiting for him to read it. And he like takes the manuscript and goes up to his bedroom or something. And then she goes back down to the office. And so she's just listening. And eventually she hears him like bawling his eyes out, and there's a crash upstairs. And she's like, oh my God, this is so sad. He's realizing what happened. And then eventually, I hear a door open. I run across the hall to the office, and I look at the monitor. Jeremy is standing in Verity's doorway looking at her. I can see both of them from the monitor. Verity. She doesn't answer him. Obviously, she doesn't want him to know that she's a threat, or maybe she's been faking it because she's afraid that he'll turn her into the police. Whatever the reason, I have a feeling Jeremy isn't going to walk away from the room until he gets his answer. Verity, he says, stepping closer to her. If you don't answer me, I'm calling the police. She doesn't answer him. He walks over to her, reaches down, and pulls open one of her eyelids. He stares at her for a moment, and then he walks toward the door. But then he pauses, like he's questioning himself, questioning what he read. He turns around and walks over to her. When I walk out of this room, I'm taking your manuscript straight to the police. They'll put you away, and you'll never see me or Crew again if you don't open your eyes and tell me what is going on in this house. Several seconds pass. I'm holding my breath, waiting for her to move, hoping she moves so that Jeremy will know that I'm telling the truth. A whimper escapes my throat when she opens her eyes. Oh my God! I slap my hand over my mouth before it turns into a scream. I'm afraid I'll wake Crew, and this is not something he needs to walk into. Jeremy's whole body tenses, and then he grabs his head with both of his hands as he walks away from her bed, and he meets the wall. What the Verity. Verity begins to shake her head adamantly. I had to, Jeremy, she says, sitting up in the bed. She's getting into a defensive pose as if she's terrified of what he might do. Jeremy is still in disbelief. His face is full of anger and betrayal and confusion. This entire time, He's trying to keep his tone down, but he looks like he's about to explode into a rage. He turns and releases his anger with a fist against the door. It makes Verity flinch. Please don't hurt me. She holds up her hands. I'll explain everything. Don't hurt you? Jeremy spins around and takes a step forward. You killed her, Verity. I can hear the anger in his voice, and it's just over the monitor, but Verity has a front row seat to it. She tries to jump out of the bed to escape him, but he doesn't allow it. He grabs her by the leg and yanks her onto the bed. Hold on, I thought he was against the wall. Where is he at? What do you mean? How did he grab her leg and put it on the... Okay, I'm not gonna think about it. When she starts to scream, he covers her mouth, blah, blah, blah. They struggle. And he's like about to like strangle Verity. And all Lowen thinks is, no, Jeremy. And so she runs upstairs, Jeremy! I rush to him and I try to pull him off of her. All I can think of is Crew and Jeremy's future and how his anger is not worth a life. His life. Jeremy! He isn't listening. He refuses to let go of her. I try to get in his face to calm him, to talk sense into him. You have to stop. You're crushing her windpipe. They'll know that you've killed her. She killed her daughter, Lowen. His voice is full of devastation. Think about Crew. Your son will not have a father if you do this. She goes on to witness this. And she says, you have to make it look like an accident. I say, my voice quiet, yet loud enough to be heard over the noises that she's making beneath the palm of his hand. Make her vomit. Cover her nose and mouth until she stops breathing. It'll look like she aspirated in her sleep. You crazy bitch. What the fuck? Jeremy's eyes are wide as he listens to me, but the understanding is there. He pulls his hands from her mouth and then like, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going into this. Crazy stuff happens. That's exactly how he ends up unaliving her. He goes on to kind of have a freaky outy moment of like, oh my God, I just unalived her. Verity also has an, oh my God, we just unalived her moment. They end up going back into their bedroom. He's cursing. And then he goes on to say, in the morning, his voice is steady with so much breath as he tries to stay calm. In the morning, I'll call the police and tell them that I found her when I went to wake her up. It'll look like she aspirated in her sleep. I haven't stopped nodding. He's looking at me with concern, with empathy, with apology. I'm sorry, he says. I'm so sorry. He leans down and kisses me on the top of my head. I'll be right back, Lowen. I need to go straighten up the room. I need to hide the manuscript. And then they continue to plot how they're just going to wake up and act like nothing happened and how they're going to make this look like it was a natural death. I guess you would call aspiration natural death in this situation. I don't know. Chapter 24 is 7 months later. Yeah, it's 7 months later. Verity died in her sleep 7 months ago. Crew took it hard. So did Jared and me. Publicly. I left the morning that she died and went back to Manhattan. Jeremy had a lot to deal with that week, and I'm sure that it would have looked even more suspicious had I stayed in his home following the death of his wife. My outline was approved, as well as the 2 subsequent outlines. I turned in the first draft of the first novel 2 weeks ago. I've requested an extension on the deadlines for the next 2 novels. It's going to be hard working on them with a newborn. I'm gonna punch a wall. She hasn't arrived yet. She's not due for another 2.5 months, but I'm confident with Jeremy's help I'll be able to catch up on any work I fall behind on. He's great with Crew, and he was great with the girls, so I know that he'll be great with our baby girl when she arrives. Baby girl, where are you? Sorry, that was so annoying. And then she goes on to say, oh my God. They were in Vermont and how they bought a house in North Carolina. With the advance in Verity's life insurance, we were able to pay cash for a home right on the beach in Southport. Every evening, the 3 of us sit on the deck of our new home and watch the waves crash against the shore. We're a family now. We aren't made up of all of the members of the family that Crew was born into, but I know Jeremy is appreciative that Crew has me in his life, and he'll be a big brother soon. I have faith that Crew will easily forget the bad memories if we give him enough good ones to cover them up with. Yeah, sure, totally. That's awesome. So they're going back to the house to pack up. I guess they've already had 2 offers on the house in Vermont, right? They're selling it, obviously, and moving to North Carolina. And so they go back up to the house to get some more stuff. And Crew runs upstairs because he says, oh, again, 5 years old. I want to remind us all the age is here. He's 5 years old. And he says, oh my God, I almost forgot. Rushing toward the stairs. I have to get the stuff out of Mom's floor. My guy, the way that I would fight a child. I watch as he runs upstairs toward Verity's old bedroom. It was empty last time I checked, but a moment later, Crew comes walking downstairs with papers in his hand. What are those? I ask him. Pictures I drew for Mom. He shoves them in my hands. I forgot she used to keep them in the floor. Lowen is like, I forgot she used to keep them in the floor? So she runs upstairs and she finds the little floorboard that pops up and she finds a couple of other things. She reaches her hand inside, she feels around, and I pull out something small. A picture of the girls. I pull out something cold. The knife. I reach in again and feel around until I find an envelope. I open it and pull out a letter, and then drop the empty envelope to the floor next to me. The first page is blank. I blow out a steady breath and lift it, revealing the second page. It's a handwritten letter to Jeremy. Fearfully, I begin to read. And I am going to read you this note in its entirety. It's kind of long. Oh, Jesus Christ, it's long. Maybe I won't read it to you in its entirety. We'll see. Hold on. Oh my, good God. Sorry. Good God. I didn't realize it was that long. So this letter, this is the literal second to last chapter, the final thing that we get from Verity. Dear Jeremy, I hope it's you who finds this letter. If it isn't you, I hope it will get to you somehow because I have a lot to say. I want to start off with an apology. I'm sure by the time that you read this, I'll have left in the middle of the night with crew. The thought of leaving you alone in the home where we shared so many memories together makes me ache for you. We had such a good life with our children, with each other, but we're chronics. The term chronics was referred to, I believe, in chapter 1, where Jeremy was saying that Verity called them chronics because it was like chronic bad things happened to them. Like, some people only have one bad thing in their lives, but they were chronics. Like, something bad happened to them chronically, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, but we're chronics. We should have known our heartache wouldn't end with Harper's death. After years of being the perfect wife to you, I never expected this career that I love and devote most of my time to would ultimately be what ended us. Our lives were perfect until we somehow flipped into an alternate dimension the day that Chasten died. As much as I try to forget where it all started to go wrong, I was cursed with this mind that never forgets a single thing. We were in Manhattan having dinner with my editor, Amanda, and you were wearing that thin gray sweater I loved, the one that your mother bought you for Christmas. My first novel had just been released, and I signed the new 2-book deal with Pantom, which is why we were at the dinner. I was discussing my next novel with Amanda. I don't know if you tuned this part of the conversation out, but I'm guessing you did because writer talk always bored you. I was expressing my concerns to Amanda because I wasn't sure which angle to take the new book. Should I write something completely different, or should I stick to the same formula of writing from the villain's point of view that made my first novel so successful? She suggested that I stick to the same formula, but she also wanted me to take even more risks with the second book. I told her that it was difficult for me to make a voice in my novels sound authentic when it wasn't at all how I think in my everyday life. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to improve my craft with the next book. That's when she told me to try an exercise that she learned in grad school called antagonistic journaling. This would have been a great time for you to be paying attention at that dinner, but you were on your phone, probably reading an ebook that wasn't mine. You caught me staring and you looked up at me, but I just smiled at you. I wasn't mad. I was happy you were there with me and being patient while I received advice from my new editor. You squeezed my leg under the table and I directed my attention back to Amanda, but my focus was on your hand as it trailed around my knee, and I couldn't wait to get back to our place that night because it was our first night away from the girls together. But I was also very interested in the advice that Amanda was giving me. She said that antagonistic journaling was the best way to improve my craft. She said that I needed to get into the mind of an evil character by writing journal entries from my own life, things that really happened, but to make my inner dialogue in the journal entry be the opposite from what I was actually thinking at the time. She told me to start writing about the day that you and I met. She said that I should write down what I was wearing, where we met, and what our conversation was that night, but to make my inner dialogue more sinister than it actually was. It sounded simple, harmless. I'll give you an example from a paragraph that I just wrote above. I look over at Jeremy, hoping that he's paying attention. He isn't. He's staring down at his phone again. This dinner is a huge deal for me. I realize that this isn't Jeremy's scene, these fancy dinners and these meetings in Manhattan, but it's not like I force him to do this all the time. And instead, he's reading someone else's ebook, being completely disrespectful to this entire conversation. He reads all the time, yet he doesn't feel comfortable reading my books. It's an insult in the highest form. I'm so embarrassed by his audacity, but I know that I need to mask my embarrassment. If Amanda notices the irritation on my face, she might notice Jeremy's disrespect. Jeremy looks up at me, so I force a smile. I can save my anger for later. I give my attention back to Amanda, hoping that she doesn't notice Jeremy's behavior. A few seconds later, Jeremy squeezes my leg right above my knee, and I stiffen beneath his touch. Most of the time, I crave it, but in this moment, the only thing that I crave is a husband who supports my career. And that's how easy it is for a writer to pretend to be someone that they aren't. Oh my God. As soon as we got back to our place, I went straight to my laptop and wrote about the night that we met. I pretended my red dress was stolen in my alternate version. I pretended that I was there hopefully to fuck rich men, which was absolutely not true. You should know me better than that, Jeremy. I wasn't very good at making myself much of a villain the first time that I tried it, so I made it a habit of writing down our milestone moments. I wrote about the night that you proposed to me, the night that I found out I was pregnant, the day that I gave birth to the girls. Every time I wrote about a new milestone, I got better and better at being in the mind of a villain, and it was exhilarating. And it helped. It helped immensely, which was why I was able to create such realistic, terrifying characters in my novels. It's why they sold, because I was good at it. By the time I had finished my third novel, I felt I had mastered the craft of writing from the point of view of the villain that wasn't at all mine. The exercises had helped me so much, I decided to combine all of my journal entries into an autobiography that could be used to teach other authors how to master their craft. I needed to tie the chapters together with an overall storyline so that the autobiography was more cohesive, so I pushed the envelope with every scene to make it more jarring, more disturbing. I don't regret writing it because my only intention was to eventually help other writers, but I do regret writing about Harper's death just days after it happened. My mind was in such a dark place though, and sometimes Sometimes, as a writer, the only way to clear your mind is to let the darkness spill into your keyboard. It was my therapy, no matter how hard that might be for you to understand. Besides, I never thought that you would read it. Beyond that first manuscript, you never read anything that I wrote, so why? Why did you choose to read that one? It was never meant for anyone to read and believe. It was an exercise. That's it. A way to tap into the dark grief that was eating at me and eliminating it with every stroke of the keyboard. Putting all of the blame onto this fictional villain I had created in that autobiography was one of the ways that I coped. I know that this letter is hard for you to read, but it can't be any harder than the manuscript was to read the night that you found it. And if we're ever going to come to a place of forgiveness, then you need to keep reading so that you'll know the absolute truth about that night, not the version that you discovered days after Harper died. When I took Harper and crew out on the lake that day, I was trying to be good for them. That morning you mentioned how I didn't play with them anymore, and you were right. It was so hard because I missed Chasten so much. But I also had these two beautiful children who still needed me, and Harper really did want to go to the water that day. It's why she ran upstairs crying, because I had told her no. I never scolded her for her lack of emotions like I stated in the manuscript. I was using artistic freedom to further the plot. It's an insult that you believe that I would speak to one of our children that way. It's an insult that you believe any of the manuscript or that I was capable of harming them. Harper's death was an accident. Her death was an accident, Jeremy. They wanted to go on the canoe, and it was so beautiful that day. And yes, I should have put life vests on them, I realize that. But how many times had we gone out on that boat without them? The water wasn't that deep, and I had no idea that the fishing net was beneath the surface. If it weren't for that fishing net, I would have found her and helped her to shore, and we all would have laughed about the day that the boat tipped over. I can't even tell you how sorry I am for not doing anything differently that day. If I could go back, I would, and you know that I would. When you got there and you pulled her out of the water and held her, I wanted to rip my heart out and feed it to you because I knew that you no longer had one of your own. I didn't want to live for another second after seeing your anguish. My God, Jeremy. To lose both of them. I watched your suspicion come to a head a few nights after Harper passed. We were in bed and you started asking me those questions. I couldn't even believe that you would think that I would do something like that on purpose, and even if it was a fleeting thought, I saw the love you had for me leave your body and flitter away like it was never there. Our entire past, all of the great moments that we shared, it just left. Because yes, I did tell Crew to hold his breath. I told him to hold his breath as the canoe was tipping. I was trying to help him. I thought that Harper would be fine because we've played in that lake many times before, so my focus was on Crew after we fell in the water. I grabbed him and he was panicking, so I tried to make it back to the dock as fast as I could before he caused both of us to drown. Not even 30 seconds had passed before I realized that Harper wasn't right behind us. To this day, I blame myself. I was her mother, her protector, and I assumed that she would be fine. So I focused on Crew for 30 seconds too long. I immediately tried to swim back and find her, but the canoe had shifted farther out because of the commotion in the water. I couldn't even find where she had gone under, and Crew was still fighting me, panicking, and I knew that if I didn't get him to the shore in that exact moment, all three of us would drown. I searched for her with everything in me, Jeremy. You have to believe me. Every part of me drowned in that lake with her. Oh my God. I didn't blame you for suspecting me. I probably would have allowed my mind to explore every possible scenario if the roles had been reversed and she drowned under your supervision. It's natural to assume that the worst in people, even if that assumption is only for a split second. I thought that you would wake up the next day after our conversation in bed and you would realize how ridiculous your indirect accusation had been. I didn't even try to change your mind that night because I was too full of grief to care, to argue. It had only been days since she had passed, and to be honest, I wanted to die. I wanted to walk out into the lake that night and join her because her death was my fault. It was an accident, yes, but if I had grabbed her, if I had forced her to wear a vest, if I had been able to grab her and Crew together, she would still be alive. I couldn't sleep, so I went to my office and I opened my laptop for the first time in over 6 months. Imagine it for a moment. A mother, grieving the loss of both of her daughters, writing a fictional workup that accused one of them of murdering the other. It was beyond disturbing. I realized that, which is why I cried the entire time that I typed. But I thought maybe if I released my guilt and my grief onto the fictional villain that I had created, it would somehow help me in a twisted way. Oh my God, I knew how many pages that was, but gosh dang, as I'm reading it, that's crazy. Long story short, she wrote all of these horrific things because it was her way of coping, because if she became the villain in everything she wrote, then fiction would be worse than reality. So when she would walk out of her office at night, it would be better. Because if it wasn't, she wouldn't want to be alive in either realm, okay? So with that, she finished it. She left it on her desk. Jeremy comes in, ends up reading it, and he's like, oh my God, you literally killed my baby. because he read that last chapter about Harper. And his reaction is then to choke her out until she passes out, not listening to her arguments or her justification or her saying, oh my God, that's not really me, like it's a writing exercise, XYZ. He chokes her out, tapes up her hands, tapes up her feet, puts her in the car, drives into a tree, just as she had said in her manuscript previously about like driving into a tree. And he doesn't have a seatbelt on her, crashes in there. She passes out from like the impact or whatever. He unties her, moves her into the passenger's or into the driver's seat so that it looks like she drove into the tree. Oh my God, right? Is the reaction to have here. Afterward, she goes into a coma for a couple of days. She wakes up, she realizes she's in a coma. What happened, what he read, that he did it, that he tried to unalive her twice already. Between the choking out and the car accident, that she was like, okay, he can't know that I'm awake right now. He can't know that I am alive, or he's like going to kill me and try to make it look like an accident. And I made it sound like I wanted to unalive myself because according to my manuscript, like XYZ, I pretended for weeks because I felt that it was my only means of survival. I was going to fake the extent of my brain injuries until I could figure out how to fix the situation that I was in. Don't think that it wasn't hard. It was humiliating at times. I wanted to give up, unalive myself, unalive you. I was so angry at how our lives had ended up. And after all those years of marriage, you could even for 1 second believe any of the manuscript to be true. I mean, seriously, Jeremy, do men really believe that women are that obsessed with sex? It was fiction. Of course, I loved making love to you, but most of it was just to please you because that's what couples do for each other. It wasn't because I couldn't live without it. Okay. I feel like all of this justifies this is all so bad. She goes on to talk about Lowen and him hiring her and her coming in and her being suspicious and XYZ and this whole thing. Like, she was the one that locked them in the bedroom so that she could write this letter. So Verity just recently wrote this letter after or during, I guess, Jeremy and Lowen hooking up in the master bedroom. Wrote it, put it under there. She was going to try to take Crew and escape. In chapter 25, she's thinking, Jeremy would never forgive himself. Never. If he found out the manuscript wasn't real, that Verity never harmed Harper, he wouldn't be able to survive that kind of truth. The truth that he murdered his innocent wife. That we murdered his innocent wife. She decides to tear up Verity's letter and eat it. Yes. She goes into the bathroom. She pretends that she's having morning sickness, right? Because she's pregnant, or whatever type of sickness because she's pregnant. She eats part of the letter. She flushes part of the letter while thinking, I brought light into his darkness and I will continue to be the light so that he'll never be lost in the shadows of his past. He doesn't need to know this. And just eats the letter because she's honoring their promise. She's going to protect him forever. And the book ends. No matter which way I look at it, it's clear that Verity is a master at manipulating the truth. The question that remains is, which truth was she manipulating? Yeah, sure, okay. I don't think I have any words for anything that's happened in this book so far. So what I was saying earlier is the fact that from the very beginning, Lowen is acknowledging the fact of like manipulation, sociopath, like narcissism, not having emotions for other people. You're in it for your own gain. You'll do whatever, move on to whatever, and not accept that other people have like emotions or feelings, which I feel is reflective of both Lowen and Jeremy. So it almost feels like a projection of sorts where Lowen either doesn't understand what narcissism really is or doesn't understand the victim, and so it's actually like this like misplaced judgment on Verity when really it should be on Jeremy. There's this like weird dynamic of the usage of words that makes you question, does Colleen Hoover know what she's talking about to a point that she is doing these things on purpose? And that's what I was saying earlier. Is Colleen Hoover writing Verity as a red herring for the narcissistic relationship between Jeremy? Like, Jeremy's the ultimate narcissist. Lowen is like easily manipulated to end up with him, and ultimately they're gonna end up like cheating and leaving each other in the long run once they stop serving a purpose. And like Verity is truly the innocent one off to the side that got taken advantage of, that is like trying to come back around and be like, hey, this shit's fucked up. Am I reading way too much into what Colleen Hoover could possibly be writing? Which I think is more of the answer. Is she understanding of what she's trying to put out there, and that's the intent? Like, she's trying to make that point. Or what is more likely is that Colleen Hoover is trying to write foreshadowing, and she's trying to be this like hint dropping sneaky, you know what I mean, like thriller writer crumb trails, but she doesn't know how to do that. And so it ends up coming across so incredibly heavy-handed that it reads differently. I hope that makes sense. Ultimately, in short, if I could summarize, I feel like all of Colleen Hoover's books are so heavy-handed that I don't believe in my heart of hearts that she would purposefully write a character that was so nuanced to be engaging in cognitive dissonance, i.e. saying things that relates to them but they don't understand that it relates to them. I don't think Colleen would write that. I think she was trying to write foreshadowing and allusions to the future and like whatever parallels in a story, and trying to be like, oh my god, I'm such a good writer, look at how all these things connect together. But instead it just made the most unlikable characters ever. I don't know, man. I hope any of what I just said makes sense. I think my next video, I'm gonna do Layla. Don't be mistaken, I will be doing that the next week or two. But I also just finished Pen Pal by JT whatever. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I just don't care to look it up right now. I will be doing that one pretty soon. And then my classics, of course. You guys have given so many recommendations. I have like a whole list. Don't worry, I'll continue working on that like every other week. I appreciate you guys so much. Comment down below if there's any videos that you would like to hear me rant about. I appreciate any input that you guys give. You guys are phenomenal. I'm having a great time. I appreciate all of you. You all are phenomenal. Again, thank you so much to Kelly for making the bingo card. You are so appreciated. You guys are so great, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.